Chapter 1301. Lu Juning entered the main courtyard and went to see Lu Mingxian. Lu Mingxian flipped out in the room. "I don't need her to come see me. Tell her to scram. Hurry and scram." Lu Mingxian laid on the bed. Her face was incomparably pale. Even her lips had no color. After last night's torment, she was now like a broken doll. Lu Mingxuan's originally pale face was flushed because of excitement. Lu Mingxian clutched her stomach. She felt that her body was in so much pain that she didn't dare to be agitated anymore. Lu Juning heard Lu Mingxuan's words from outside the door. Her expression was calm. She curled her lips and faintly said, "Since the Jijia doesn't want to see me, then I'll come see her next time." Lu Juning turned and left. She didn't have any grievances of being rejected. "Mother, it must be that bitch Lu Juning who harmed me. It must be her." Lu Mingxian cried and said to Concubine Yun. Concubine Yun gently touched Lu Mingxuan's back. "Mother won't let you be harmed without knowing why. Jijia, don't worry. I will avenge you." Lu Jinghui patted his chest. Lu Jinghui was only 7 or 8 years old. He looked strong and strong. In addition, he was the only boy in the manor. He was doted on by Lu Yuanfan. Whether or not Concubine Yun could be promoted depended on whether or not her daughter could marry a man of noble status and her son Lu Jinghui. Lu Jinghui was the only son of Lu Manor. If he wanted to inherit the family business, for Lu Jinghui's future, he would definitely become the legitimate son. Lu Jinghui could get whatever he wanted in the manor. Seeing his sister being bullied, he immediately took out his slingshot and rushed out. Lu Jinghui ran to Lu Juning's courtyard. He took out his slingshot and directly shot at Lu Juning. If the round stone hit a person's body, it would definitely swell. The injury would definitely not be light. Lu Jinghui was immensely proud. He was prepared to see his second sister cry. The stone quickly flew towards Lu Juning. Lu Juning's expression was cold. Lu Juning's maidservant immediately blocked in front of her and closed her eyes. When the stone was about to hit the maidservant's face, a stone flew over and directly hit the bullet. It didn't hurt Lu Juning at all. Lu Jinghui was a bit stunned. He immediately took out another bullet and shot at Lu Juning. Lu Juning's expression hardened, causing her eyes to exude a vicious aura, incomparably sharp. The bullet still didn't hit Lu Juning. Lu Juning took a deep look at Lu Jinghui. "As a male descendant of the Lu family, you really don't know how to behave properly. As a bastard, you don't even know how to greet your elder sister when you see the daughter of the first wife." Unable to do anything to the other party, Lu Jinghui was so angry that he wanted to die. He retorted, "Who do you think you are? How dare you bully my sister? I'll make you suffer. Now, kneel in front of me and bark like a dog, and I'll let you go." Lu Jinghui found a way to get off the stage. He had missed several times, and it was too embarrassing. Lu Juning smirked coldly. So arrogant and despotic. Lu Juning narrowed her eyes and stared at Lu Jinghui. If her child didn't die, he would grow up slowly. She would teach him well and give him the best. But he was killed by Lu Mingxian. Lu Jinghui was a little scared by Lu Juning's gaze. He said a few harsh words and turned to run. The manservant followed behind Lu Jinghui, afraid that something would happen to him. Lu Juning looked at Lu Jinghui's back. He was wearing a brocade robe, just like a little fairy. But he was a vicious, arrogant, and spoiled brat. "Miss, are you all right?" the servant girl asked in a trembling voice. "I'm fine. In the future, don't block me in this kind of thing." Lu Juning looked at the servant girl. "I know your loyalty." Lu Mingxian recuperated for about half a month before leaving the room. Ning Shu saw Lu Mingxian sitting on the seat. Her face was a little pale, and her chin was sharp, as if she had just recovered from a serious illness. Lu Mingxian looked at Lu Juning with deep, unsuppressible disgust and hatred. Lu Juning looked indifferent. Sparks crackled between the two of them. Ning Shu didn't care about the strange atmosphere between the two of them. Even if the two of them fought to the death, Ning Shu wouldn't bat an eyelid. Anyway, between the two of them, if one of them died, it would stop. If there was her, then there was me. If there was me, then there was her. Mr. Lu didn't come to Lu Manor because recently, this Mr. Lu had been involved with men. Mr. Lu hadn't married. After leaving the palace, he became the teacher of the young misses of the wealthy families. Now that his morals were lacking, he naturally couldn't become a teacher. The wealthy families wouldn't let this kind of person teach their daughters. Concubine Yun had a headache. Her daughter was resting in bed, and Mr. Lu had a problem. Concubine Yun directly fired Mr. Lu and didn't even give him a monthly salary. She didn't even need to think to know who did it. She heard that Mr. Lu went to find a man. In any case, Mr. Lu fell into a cesspool and couldn't be washed clean. It didn't matter to Ning Shu whether there was a teacher or not. Without a teacher, he could laze in bed a little longer every morning. Ning Shu practiced embroidery in his small courtyard every day. His days were quite comfortable. Occasionally, he would discuss embroidery with Lu Yujing. Compared to Ning Shu's calmness, Lu Yujing was very nervous. Ning Shu said, "Third sister, I'm a bit nervous." "What are you nervous about?" "Anyway, even if the sky falls, there are tall people to hold it up. Don't be afraid." Ning Shu acted as the middleman and said without raising his head. "Anyway, I'm just nervous." Lu Yujing said. The atmosphere in the house was a bit strange. This wasn't the atmosphere of a harmonious family. There was a low pressure that made people feel stuffy. Ning Shu said, "As long as we don't do anything out of line, it will be fine." They were afraid that they wouldn't do anything and would be swept by the tail of the typhoon. However, being in the eye of the typhoon, even if they didn't do anything, they would still be unlucky. Lu Yujing sighed and continued to write. Concubine Lu had people send pastries over for Ning Shu and Lu Yujing to eat. Lu Yujing said enviously, "Third sister, your concubine is so good to you." Lu Yujing's mother died in childbirth. Growing up, she didn't enjoy any maternal or paternal love. The child is the continuation of the mother's life. Of course, she loves the child. You have to live a better life for your concubine. Ning Shu took the pastries and gave them to Lu Yujing. Lu Yujing thanked him in a low voice and took the pastries and ate them in small bites. Yuan Xiang walked in. Ning Shu and Lu Yujing bowed and greeted. Ning Shu said, "Miss, Lu Zhen's sister from Madam's side is here." Lu Yujing quickly stood up, "Then I'll leave first." Ning Shu nodded his head. Lu Yujing took her things and left the room. She met Lu Zhen in the courtyard. Lu Zhen was concubine Yun's head maid. Naturally, she had a bit of temper. When she saw Lu Yujing, she casually bowed. Chapter 1302. Newbie pays respect to fourth miss. Lu Zhen casually bent her knees and immediately stood up. Her movements were very perfunctory. Lu Yujing's face turned red. She waved her hand uneasily, "No need, no need." Pfft. Lu Zhen let out a slight sneer, making Lu Yujing's ears turn red. Lu Yujing took her things and hurriedly left. Lu Zhen's expression was contemptuous. She lifted her foot and stepped through the threshold. "Why is Madam looking for me?" Ning Shu asked Lu Zhen. Concubine Yun looked for her a bit frequently. What was it this time? Ning Shu tidied up a bit and followed Lu Zhen to see concubine Yun. "You are also 13 years old. It's time to go out and see the world. In 2 days, you will go to Tiantai Temple to worship Buddha. The temple's great master Ming Ran is going to talk about Buddha. You should also go." Concubine Yun said to Ning Shu loftily. Tiantai Temple was the country's imperial temple. Incense was at its peak. It was a place loved by high officials and nobles. Great Master Ming Rant's Buddhist teachings were profound. He was a senior monk. How could she be allowed to go? As a concubine's daughter, she basically had no part in this kind of activity. Go back and prepare. Don't disgrace Lu Manor's prestige. When the time comes, many nobles will go. Every family's young ladies and gongzi must pay attention to their manners. Don't do anything that will embarrass Lu Manor. Concubine Yun said. Ning Shu bowed, I know. You can leave. Concubine Yun waved her hand. Outside the main courtyard, Yuan Xiang immediately said, Miss, that's great. This way, you can meet other noble ladies. So what if she met noble ladies? Even her own sisters fought with each other. Could outsiders help her? It was just a matter of looking at the person. For this kind of thing, there was another possibility. Blind dates were held in the temple. Concubine Lu heard that Ning Shu was going to follow Concubine Yun to Tiantai Temple to worship Buddha. She immediately took out her own money to prepare clothes and jewelry for Ning Shu. She wanted to let Ning Shu show his face in front of those madams and leave a good impression. In the future, someone would propose marriage. Concubine Lu was even more nervous than Ning Shu. She kept telling Ning Shu what he should do and not be rude. Concubine Lu was like an ant on a hot pan, pacing back and forth, making herself dizzy. Ning Shu let Concubine Lu do as she pleased. Concubine Lu wholeheartedly cared for her. Third sister, are you going to worship Buddha? Lu Yujing was very envious. She also looked a little embarrassed. She was also her father's daughter, but she had been completely forgotten. It was because she didn't have a biological mother to protect her. Ning Shu said, when you're my age, you'll be able to attend all kinds of banquets. When she was slightly older, they would bring her out to promote her so that people would know that their daughter had grown up and could propose marriage. Lu Yujing replied with an "oh" in disappointment before she turned around and left. The night before they went to Tiantai Temple, Concubine Lu reminded Ning Shu again and again, making Ning Shu think that she was going to get married tomorrow. This is your first time going out. Don't get into conflicts with others. Just bear with it. Don't talk too much. You have to ask the madam for instructions on everything. Concubine Lu repeatedly warned Ning Shu. Ning Shu listened carefully and nodded. I know. The next morning, Ning Shu put on the clothes and jewelry that Concubine Lu had prepared for her. Ning Shu carried the powder with her. When there were many people, it was easy for something to happen. She had to be prepared. In particular, those who went to Tiantai Temple were all people of noble status. If something happened to them, they would become the laughing stock of the upper class. They would never be able to turn over a new leaf. Ning Shu had to be prepared. Ning Shu took Yuan Xiang to the gate. There were several sedan chairs at the gate. There were also some guards escorting the womenfolk to the temple. Concubine Yun looked at Ning Shu from head to toe and nodded reluctantly. She was basically qualified. Ning Shu had almost emptied Concubine Lu's family fortune, just so that her daughter could be a little bit more glamorous. Ning Shu felt that Concubine Yun was very petty. According to the practice of the other madams, even if she was a concubine's daughter, she had to give her a little bit of good clothes. After all, if she could take out jewelry, it would give the family face. Concubine Yun only cared about stuffing money into her pocket. If she could save it, she would save it and put it in her small private treasury. Ning Shu didn't care. She could do whatever she wanted. She didn't want to fight for these small profits. If the Lu family's ship was destroyed, she would take Concubine Lu and leave. Lu Mingxian was wearing brocade clothes. She was more beautiful than a flower. Lu Juning was wearing simple but elegant clothes. The fabric was made of moonlight gauze. As she walked, it reflected a luster, making Lu Juning look as cold as Chang'e in the moon. Even Lu Mingxuan's eyes turned red with jealousy when she saw Lu Juning's clothes. Ning Shu took a glance and withdrew her gaze. She said to concubine Lu, who was standing at the door, "Concubine Lu, you can go back. I'm leaving. Be careful on the road." Concubine Lu said to Ning Shu eagerly. Ning Shu saw fourth Miss Lu Yujing carefully poking her head out of the door. She looked at the row of palanquins with envy. Lu Yujing had never left the house since she was young. Ning Shu got on the palanquin. The palanquin was lifted up shakily. Ning Shu was jolted up and down in the sedan chair. She was a little sleepy. Ning Shu walked to Yuan Xiang, who was beside the palanquin, and said, "Don't call me if there's nothing." "Yes." Ning Shu closed her eyes. She sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. After Ning Shu's persistent cultivation, she could now carry stones and jump over walls. If there was anything, she should be able to deal with it. Tiantai Temple was very big. The long stairs extended from the foot of the mountain to the top of the mountain. The people who came to worship Buddha had to climb from the foot of the mountain to the top. The palanquin stopped at the foot of the mountain. There were many palanquins at the foot of the mountain. It seemed that many people came to worship Buddha. Ning Shu got off the palanquin. She looked up at the stairs. There were many stairs. Climbing up would definitely tire her out. Especially for the young ladies who didn't exercise much. Many people were climbing the stairs. Concubine Yun walked in front with Lu Mingxian and Lu Juning. Ning Shu walked at the back. The stairs were flat and smooth. The top was clean. Climbing the stairs was physical work. Halfway up, the three people in front were already out of breath. Ning Shu lowered her head. She was neither panting nor sweating. From time to time, some young masters walked by. Ning Shu lowered her head and walked with her head down. She didn't attract anyone's attention. With the appearance of some young masters, Ning Shu was sure that this was a large blind date event. A large event to make friends. Tiantai Temple was decorated in gold and jade. The golden body of the Bodhisattva in the main hall was shining. Concubine Yun brought the three girls to burn incense. Ning Shu put the incense in the incense burner and donated some money. Ning Shu had just put some silver in the merit box when a pair of slender hands put some silver in first. Ning Shu turned to look at the owner of the hands. It was a young man. Chapter 1303. This young man was dressed in a green robe with wide sleeves, a white jade pendant tied to his waist and a jade hairpin on his head. He had a graceful bearing and his face was smooth. He was a handsome man. And one look and you could tell he was a person of high status. Ning Shu put the silver pieces into the merit box and turned to leave. Hee, what an ill-fated relationship. This man was that young marquis. He married the previous host's Liu. He was indeed gay, looking neither male nor female. Ning Shu didn't discriminate against gays. After all, this kind of thing was innate. But the other party tricking him into marriage made Ning Shu quite disgusted. The previous host's wish was not to marry Liu, so she didn't want to have anything to do with Liu. Ning Shu left the main hall and went to find Concubine Yun. He saw Concubine Yun talking to a noble lady. Concubine Yun's attitude was very low, very humble, as if she was trying to please others. Usually, she was full of style at home. When she went out, Concubine Yun was just a concubine. How could the mistress of the house lower herself to talk to a concubine? Ning Shu, who was watching from the side, felt awkward. So why did he go over? He was asking to be humiliated. Ning Shu stood in the corner and looked at these madams and young misses, standing in twos and threes and talking. It was really a beautiful picture. These women, each one of them had a graceful bearing and were beautiful. Beauties. Ahem ahem. Ning Shu heard a slight cough in her ear. Ning Shu turned her head and saw Li Yu walking towards her. As soon as he came close, Ning Shu smelled a scent on his body. It was a bit fragrant but not pungent. The smell was quite good. "Young miss, you're here alone." Li Yu opened his mouth, his voice was like a gurgling stream. "Young miss, you're the young miss." She wasn't standing here alone. Was there anyone else? Were they blind? Ning Shu's mouth twitched. He lowered his head and didn't say anything. "Young miss, why did you leave as soon as you saw me?" Li Yu looked at Ning Shu. His eyes sparkled. "Ning Shu, flirt my ass, do you want to be a lesbian with me?" Ning Shu only said, "My eyes are not good. I didn't see you." She would never marry Li Yu again in this lifetime, so if Li Yu still wanted to use her as a shield, then she would not be polite. Li Yu rubbed her nose and chuckled. Ning Shu clearly saw Li Yu's impatient expression, but he still patiently dealt with her, showing off his charm. Could it be that Li Yu had long taken a fancy to the original owner's weak and uncompetitive personality? She was also a concubine's daughter, so even if the matter was exposed in the future, the original owner would endure it. "Young master, this little girl is about to leave." "Young master, please go ahead," Ning Shu said. Wait a minute." Before Li Yu could finish speaking, Ning Shu had already turned around and left. Li Yu frowned and stared at Ning Shu's back. This woman's temperament. Ning Shu walked to concubine Yun's side to see if Li Yu dared to come over and take liberties with her. Concubine Yun introduced her daughter Lu Mingxian to everyone she met. Lu Mingxian was born bright and beautiful, very likable. However, even concubine Yun was met with a nose full of dust. It was because concubine Yun's identity was not likable. In the end, Lu Mingxuan's expression became ugly. She saw Lu Juning in the crowd, talking and laughing with others. Like a moon surrounded by stars, Lu Mingxuan's expression became even uglier. It felt like there were needles stabbing her heart. How was she worse than Lu Juning? It was because she was not the daughter of the first wife and did not have a prominent family. Her wide sleeves covered her tightly clenched fists. Even so, she was better than Lu Juning. Lu Juning saw that Lu Mingxuan's face was twisted in jealousy and smiled in disdain. Ning Shu sighed. When would he be able to rest? Ning Shu looked at the two girls fighting, his heart did not waver. He could not understand what was there to fight over such a small matter. Just because one person spoke to her and did not speak to him, a world war would break out. It was completely meaningless. This kind of fight was really meaningless. What was the point of fighting over these things? Competition was the root of all evil. Ning Shu, I want to rest. The third prince has arrived. A voice rang out. When the girls heard this, they all tidied up their clothes and welcomed the third prince in their best state. The world's biggest scumbag had appeared. Third Prince Shen Hao. With the help of Lu Juning's family and Lu Juning's family, Shen Hao ascended the throne. However, not long after he ascended the throne, he killed the donkey. He even killed his own son who had his own bloodline. Shen Hao had the looks of a member of the royal family. He was handsome and had a noble aura around him. No matter where he went, he was the husband that all girls dreamed of. He was a member of the royal family and was handsome. Everyone bowed toward Shen Hao. When Lu Juning saw Shen Hao, her body stiffened. She could not help but tremble. She could barely suppress the hatred in her heart. Lu Mingxuan's eyes lit up as she looked at Shen Hao. Ning Shu lowered his head. What was there to fight over? He would just chop off his penis and ensure that no one would fight over it. Lu Juning turned around and left. When she saw Shen Hao, she couldn't help but think of her own child. The child that called her mother was killed by Shen Hao. Shen Hao looked at Lu Juning. He was talking to someone while paying attention to the noble ladies around him. A monk arranged a room for him. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. He could finally rest. Master Liao Ran was going to teach Buddhism tomorrow, so they had to stay at Tiantai Temple for one night. Even if it was just one night, it was easy to get into trouble. When it was time to eat, Lu Juning did not appear. She had seen her enemy from her previous life and had no appetite. Ning Shu felt that the vegetarian food in Tiantai Temple was really good. It was meticulously made and tasted good. After all, it was a royal temple. After living in Selda, Ning Shu cherished food very much. He was not picky about food anymore. Only after experiencing that did he know that having food to eat and living was a very happy thing. Ning Shu chewed slowly, but she ate quite a lot. After eating the vegetarian food, Ning Shu took a walk in front of his room. He did not plan to walk around the temple. With so many people, he could meet people wherever he went. The sky gradually darkened. Ning Shu returned to his room to rest. Yuan Xiang slept next to him. When Yuan Xiang fell asleep, Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the bed to cultivate. Occasionally, he could hear the sound of the roof tiles gently moving. Ning Shu twitched the corner of his mouth. These people who knew martial arts came and went, stepping on the roof. How could they let him sleep? Ning Shu got out of bed after cultivating until the sky was slightly bright. The monks were doing their morning classes. There were many monks in Tiantai Temple. With so many monks chanting together and the sound of knocking on the wooden fish, the sound could be heard very far. The entire temple was filled with grand Sanskrit sounds. Ning Shu waited for the monks to finish their morning classes so that he could eat breakfast. The food in Tiantai Temple was delicious. Ning Shu was impressed by the vegetarian food in Tiantai Temple. It was better than meat. The guests in the temple gradually woke up. When the monks finished their morning classes, Ning Shu happily went to eat breakfast. The Lu family had donated so much incense money. It was not too much to eat vegetarian food. Chapter 1304. Concubine Yun, Lu Juning, Lu Mingxian, and Ning Shu sat together. The three of them didn't have much of an appetite. Ning Shu ate alone with his head down. Concubine Yun glanced at Ning Shu, rolled her eyes, and looked away. Today is Master Ming Ran's lecture. I will think of a way to have Master Ming Ran read your fortune. Concubine Yun said to Lu Mingxian. Thank you, mother. Lu Mingxian said happily. If Master Ming Ran read her fortune, her life would be a golden path. But Master Ming Ran never read fortunes easily. It would be a bit difficult for Concubine Yun to get Master Ming Ran to read her fortune. Lu Juning's expression was indifferent, as if she wasn't interested in reading fortunes. Ning Shu picked up some food. The atmosphere at the table was particularly stiff. After breakfast, a monk informed everyone to go to the Hall of Great Strength. Master Ming Ran was preparing to talk about Buddhism. The crowd went to the Hall of Great Strength. There were many praying mats in the hall. According to status, the person sitting in front had the highest status. Like this, the Lu family was ranked at the back. But Lu Juning sat in front, making Concubine Yun and Lu Mingxian so angry that their lungs were about to explode. Concubine Yun's status was really too low. Ning Shu sat behind Concubine Yun and looked at Monk Ming Ran in front of him. Monk Ming Ran's snow-white eyebrows drooped to the corner of his mouth. There were many wrinkles on his face. He had a kind face and his eyes were neither arrogant nor impatient. He had the air of an eminent monk. During the lecture, people kept leaving, either to go to the toilet or to drink some water. But they were all careful to avoid disturbing Master Ming Ran. Ning Shu listened to Monk Ming Ran's lecture while paying attention to the situation around him. Occasionally, he would meet Li Yu's eyes. Li Yu smiled at Ning Shu, looking very handsome. Ning Shu, why are you looking at me? You want to flirt with me again? Ning Shu looked away expressionlessly. Seriously listen to Monk Ming Rant's lecture, he was already so old. Ning Shu noticed that Lu Juning left the table. He didn't know what she was going to do. Lu Mingxuan's face had a happy smile. Ning Shu looked at the two of them and felt very tired. Benefactor, there's someone outside who wants to see you, a novice monk whispered to Ning Shu. Ning Shu said in his heart, here it comes. Ning Shu bent down and walked out of the grand hall. He saw the maid beside Lu Juning. Third miss, my young miss wants to ask you for a favor. The maid Ning Shu said. Ning Shu's heart turned cold as he asked, what happened to your miss? Third miss, please come with me, the maid said. The maidservant led Ning Shu through many twists and turns before finally arriving at a room. Third miss, please go in. Ning Shu put his hand on the sachet and asked, where is second sister now? It's in the room, the maid said. Ning Shu stretched out his hand and knocked the maidservant unconscious. Then, he pulled her into the room. As soon as he entered, Ning Shu smelled a smell. Smoke was rising from the incense burner. Ning Shu sneered. Doing such a thing in such a place, did he really revere the Bodhisattva? Ning Shu held his breath and took off the maid's clothes. He stuffed the maid under the bed and changed into the maid's clothes. Then, Ning Shu covered his nose and went out of the room to guard at the door. After a while, he heard hurried footsteps. Ning Shu saw that it was Lu Juning. How is it? Lu Juning asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu imitated the maid's voice. Inside. Lu Juning took out a handkerchief and went into the room. Ning Shu followed. Ning Shu covered his nose and sprinkled a handful of powder on Lu Juning. Then, he hit Lu Juning with his palm. Lu Juning fainted at once. Ning Shu dragged Lu Juning to the bed in the room. He poured some things into the incense burner. Since you like to play with these things, I'll add some fun for you. Ning Shu locked the door and was about to find a place to change his clothes. But he didn't expect to meet Lu Mingxian. Is it done? Lu Mingxian asked Ning Shu. Lu Mingxuan's face was full of excitement. It was as if she could already see Lu Juning's reputation being ruined. Ning Shu covered his face with a handkerchief, only revealing his eyes. Eldest miss, it's done. You can go and take a look. I'll go and find someone first. Lu Mingxian wanted to catch them in the act. Eldest miss, you should go and take a look first. Ning Shu said. Lu Mingxian thought that it was right. It wouldn't be good if she made a mistake. She had prepared a good man for Lu Juning. Lu Mingxian stared at Ning Shu. Why are you covering your mouth? That medicine is too strong. I'm a bit afraid of breathing it in. I still don't dare to put it down. Ning Shu lowered his head and said. Lu Mingxian went to the room, but there was no sound at all. What's going on? Lu Mingxian couldn't help but open the door. She covered her nose and entered the room. There was no one on the bed. Ning Shu was also a bit surprised. Lu Juning should be in this room. Sure enough, he had the halo of a main character. Ning Shu knocked Lu Mingxian unconscious and placed her on the bed. A few cat meows came from outside the room. Ning Shu went out and saw a man. This man was ugly and extremely wretched. This was the person Lu Mingxian found to defile Lu Juning. But he was ugly. Who was he trying to disgust? Can I go in now? The man rubbed his hands and asked Ning Shu urgently. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. What the hell was this? Ning Shu could vaguely hear Lu Mingxian moaning inside. Clearly, the medicine was taking effect. Ning Shu knocked out the wretched man with a palm and dragged him to a corner. After feeding him a pack of knockout powder, he would probably sleep for a while. No, it was this man who defiled Lu Yueyun in the previous life. Ning Shu pulled out the hairpin on his head and turned the man over. He stabbed the hairpin into the man's waist. The man immediately groaned in pain. His face was covered with yellow sweat and he fainted. Ning Shu changed his clothes and put the maid's clothes on her. He was ready to return to the Hall of Great Strength. Ning Shu saw the swaying Li Yu and a thought came to his mind. Ning Shu appeared behind Li Yu in a flash and knocked Li Yu unconscious. Ning Shu shook his hand. His hand was really tired today. Ning Shu carried Li Yu to the room and put Li Yu and Lu Mingxian to sleep together. Even if the two of them didn't do anything, lying together couldn't explain it. Lu Mingxian bestowed a marriage for Lu Yueyun to marry Li Yu. Now that she was with Li Yu, Lu Mingxian could only wait to marry Li Yu. Ning Shu closed the door and returned to the Hall of Great Strength at the fastest speed. Concubine Yun glanced at Ning Shu. "Where did you go?" Ning Shu looked terrified. "I went to the toilet. My stomach felt uncomfortable." "You saw your eldest sister?" Ning Shu shook his head blankly. Ning Shu listened to Monk Ming Ran's preaching while thinking where Lu Juning went. Could it be that her secret guard saved her? But that medicine was enough for Lu Juning. The medicine in the incense burner was strong. After burning, it wouldn't leave any traces. Chapter 1305. What happened was that Lu Mingxuan's body was ruined by Lu Juning. Lu Mingxian was so angry that she planned to find a man to ruin Lu Juning's chastity while all the officials and nobles were present. Lu Juning sensed the conspiracy and immediately thought of Ning Shu, the Ning Shu who was flirting with Li Yu in the main hall. In order to create hatred for Lu Mingxian, Lu Juning had a servant girl called Ning Shu. Ning Shu bluntly knocked Lu Juning unconscious and placed Lu Juning in the room. In the end, Lu Juning disappeared and Ning Shu brought Lu Mingxian into the room. After that, Li Yu and Ning Shu decided to let the two of them become a couple, which solved the problem of marrying Li Yu. However, Lu Juning's servant girl was a double agent. She took orders from both Lu Juning and Lu Mingxian. It was really interesting. There were so many bastards in the pond, but so many demons in the temple. Ning Shu moved his wrist. His hand hurt. After Monk Ming Ran finished preaching, many noblewomen wanted Master Ming Ran to read their fortunes. Master Ming Ran asked these people to write down their birth characters. If they were fated, he would read their fortunes. What he meant was that it depended on his mood. He could also choose people with good fortunes. Concubine Yun gave Lu Mingxuan's birth characters to the monk. The monk gave a note with the birth characters to Monk Ming Ran. Master Ming Ran usually didn't read fortunes, so the quota was very precious. Concubine Yun only prepared Lu Mingxuan's birth characters. It would be good if she had the fortune of being rich and noble. It would be even better if she had the fate of the phoenix. The current emperor, when Master Ming Ran read the fate of the Son of Heaven, ascended to the throne. Concubine Yun looked forward to it and frowned. Where did Mingxian go? Go and find her. Ning Shu was confused. This temple is so big. Where can I find her? Look everywhere. Concubine Yun said irritably. Go and find her. Don't talk back. Ning Shu could only go and find her. At this moment, a woman's scream sounded from somewhere. When everyone heard the sound, they all went over and saw a man lying in the grass. The man was lying on the ground, and it was unknown if he was still alive. Ning Shu looked at the man. It was the man she had crippled before. Who is he? Why did he come to Tiantai Temple? What's wrong with Tiantai Temple? Why did they let people in? Everyone was talking about it. Concubine Yin frowned. Where did Ming Xian go? Why hasn't she returned yet? Concubine Yun was afraid that something would happen, so she didn't dare to make it public. She could only search everywhere. She also instructed Ning Shu not to spread the matter when he found the person. Ning Shu looked like a yes man and agreed to whatever Concubine Yun said. Concubine Yun discovered that not only had Lu Mingxian disappeared, even Lu Juning had disappeared. Concubine Yun's heart jumped. She felt that something had happened. She was afraid that Lu Juning would harm her daughter. Ning Shu lowered his head and said to Concubine Yun, "Furen, I can't find eldest sister." "Trash!" Concubine Yun coldly shouted, making Ning Shu's body tremble. "Go and find her. What are you waiting for?" Ning Shu could only look for her with a bitter face. At this time, the Marquise was also looking for her son. When she saw Ning Shu asked, "Third Miss Lu, do you know where my son Li Yu went?" Ning Shu looked flattered. "Furen, how do you know that I am ranked third?" "You just need to ask to know." "Do you know where my son went?" Furen Li asked. Ning Shu shook his head, "I don't know. I am also looking for my eldest sister. And second sister." Furen Li frowned. Ning Shu lowered his head and didn't speak. He looked weak and petty. Furen Li looked at Ning Shu from head to toe and nodded with satisfaction. Ning Shu was talking to Furen Li. Furen Li pulled Ning Shu aside and asked him all kinds of questions. Ning Shu lowered his head and answered in a low voice. Concubine Yun couldn't find her daughter, so she asked the monks of Tiantai Temple to help. Lu Mingxian and Lu Juning were missing. Concubine Yun was afraid that Lu Juning did something to her daughter. There is strength in numbers. Finally, they found Lu Mingxian. In the side room, the situation was beyond the monks' expectations. A man and a woman were together. It was simply a stain on the Buddhists' pure land. Li Yu grabbed Lu Mingxuan's waist and entered from the back. Their faces were flushed and their expressions were dreamy. Concubine Yun saw this charming scene. Her head was hit by something. It was as if an arrow had pierced her heart. She was stunned. They were found out. Both of them didn't stop their shameful exercise. Concubine Yun shouted. She suddenly rushed over and pulled Li Yu away. She covered her daughter's body with a quilt. The blood on the quilt stung Concubine Yun's eyes. Li Yu also woke up. Seeing that he was naked, he quickly covered the important parts with clothes. Li Yu's expression was strange. When he saw the woman on the bed, he looked like he wanted to vomit. It was as if he had stepped on shit. When Ning Shu and Furen Li arrived, they saw this scene. Ning Shu saw Li Yu's naked body. His expression was inexplicable. Wasn't he walking on the road? How did he have sex with Lu Mingxian? This. Furen Li couldn't speak for a long time. "Mother, I was schemed against," Li Yu said with a pale face. He clearly came out to find third Miss Lu, but he suddenly fainted. Then, he inexplicably did that. "What did you say?" "You defiled my daughter. You still dare to say that you schemed against her?" Concubine Yun suddenly shouted. Furen Li frowned. My son must have been schemed against. Furen Li knew that her son had an unusual hobby. He wouldn't do this kind of thing with a woman. Lu Mingxian hid in the quilt. She didn't dare to come out. Her whole body was trembling. My daughter was the one who suffered. You mean that my daughter schemed against your son? Even if my daughter is stupid, she wouldn't do such a thing. Concubine Yun said hatefully. If you don't give me an explanation for this matter, my Lu family won't let it go. Your daughter is just a concubine's daughter. She wants to climb up the social ladder. My son is the heir of the Marquis Fu. He is also the eldest son. Wasn't it your daughter who schemed against my son? Lu Mingxian stuck her head out of the quilt. She cried and shook her head. I didn't. Mother, I didn't. She also didn't know how things became like this. Shouldn't it be Lu Juning who ended up like this? Why? You. Concubine Yun heard Furen Li say this. She was so angry that she almost fainted. Even if it is the Marquis Fu, Lu family won't let it go. Concubine Yun gritted her teeth. Her daughter's reputation was ruined. Fu Enli looked at Lu Mingxian on the bed. Everyone saw that her daughter had sex with this woman. This woman was barely acceptable. Fu Enli said condescendingly, "The Marquis Fu will take responsibility for this matter. Discuss a date and set it." Chapter 1306. Li Yu's mother, Madame Li, straightforwardly set the date, which meant that she agreed to Li Yu and Lu Mingxuan's marriage. She agreed so straightforwardly that Concubine Yun and Lu Mingxian didn't come back to their senses. They felt that there should be a fight before they agreed. "Mother." Li Yu frowned and shouted. "Since the two children have this kind of thing, then let the two children get married. If your Lu family isn't willing, then let's forget about it." Madame Li Yu said casually. Anyway, it wasn't her son who lost his chastity. It was just that it didn't sound good and it wouldn't affect Li Yu's future. How can we forget about it? We can't forget about it like this. Concubine Yun immediately said, "I have to go back and discuss this matter with Master." Madame Li made a sound of agreement. She glanced at Lu Mingxian on the bed and turned to leave. Li Yu passed by Ning Shu and paused for a moment before also leaving. Only Ning Shu and Concubine Yun were left in the room. Lu Mingxian immediately shouted, "Mother, my butt hurts." Women's first time is always like this. Concubine Yun comforted, "But Li Yu is the young Marquis and will inherit the Marquis Fu in the future. It's not bad. And you'll be the main wife." The method wasn't important, the result was important. But Lu Mingxuan's expression was very unwilling. She still wanted to climb up. A Marquis's wife was a bit different from her goal. And, Lu Mingxian bit her lip and said, "Mother, my butt hurts." Li Yu entered that place, not the front. Ning Shu, even when they were hungry, they still chose to walk the dry road. Lu Mingxuan's heart was very strange. Her lower body hurt as if it was being torn apart. There was blood flowing out. If it wasn't for the lubrication of the blood, who knew how painful it would be? Concubine Yun said with an uncertain expression, "It should be because Li Yu is young and doesn't have much experience." "Daughter, your reputation is ruined. You can only marry Li Yu. So, no matter what, you have to marry into the Marquis Fu." Concubine Yun said. Even if Lu Mingxian didn't want to marry, there was nothing she could do. "Mother, it must be Lu Juning. It must be her. She turned around to harm me. Bitao, that damned girl, betrayed me." Lu Mingxian gnashed her teeth and said with a ruthless expression. "I won't let her go." Lu Mingxian gritted her teeth so hard that it sounded like she wanted to chew Lu Juning alive. Ning Shu lowered his head and stood to the side, as if he didn't exist. Concubine Yun Ning Shu waved his hand, "Go out and guard." "Oh." Ning Shu turned around and left the room. When he went out, he heard Concubine Yun say that this time Lu Juning will not have an easy time. Ning Shu waited at the door, not knowing where Lu Juning went. She was clearly in the room. How did she disappear? Could it be that she was taken away by someone? Even if she was taken away, Lu Juning had absorbed a lot of spices. If he wanted to get rid of the drug's effects, the fastest way was to blend in. Lu Mingxian asked very unwillingly, "Mother, where is that bitch Lu Juning? Seeing me in such a sorry state, it's impossible for her not to appear. Where is that bitch? I want to kill her. Tell mother honestly. Did you do something? Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened." Concubine Yun asked. Lu Mingxian hid this matter from everyone. Her body was damaged by Lu Juning. How could she be willing to accept this? But how did things develop to this state? Lu Mingxuan's mind was still in a daze. Concubine Yun couldn't help but hit Lu Mingxian, "Before doing anything, can't you discuss it with me first?" If the plan was meticulous, this kind of thing wouldn't have happened. "Mother, how would I know this would happen? Lu Mingxian cried and shouted. She didn't regret arranging this matter. She only hated that Lu Juning didn't take the bait. Where is Lu Juning? Lu Mingxian asked. She was in such a sorry state now. How could Lu Juning not appear and laugh at her? That's right. Lu Juning also disappeared. Concubine Yun's expression was malicious. Anyway, your reputation is already ruined. We can't let Lu Juning get away with it. Even if she died, she had to drag someone down with her. Concubine Yun left the room. She shouted and cried all the way. She said that the second miss was missing. She couldn't find her anywhere. She didn't know if something had happened. She had disappeared for so long. Something must have happened. Concubine Yun shouted in the temple that Lu Juning was missing. She had been missing for a long time. Something must have happened. In a short while, everyone in the temple knew that the second miss of the Lu family was missing. The monks in the temple also began to look for Lu Juning's whereabouts. Ning Shu felt that Lu Juning shouldn't be in Tiantai Temple. Otherwise, why couldn't so many people find her? Many people said that the Lu family was really unlucky. First, they did this kind of thing in a Buddhist place. Then, the daughter of the first wife went missing. She had been missing for so long. It was hard to say if she could still keep her innocence. Come in and help me put on my clothes. Lu Mingxian said weakly from inside the room. The servant girls all went to find Lu Juning. Only Ning Shu stayed outside. When he heard the sound, he opened the door and went in. Why are you here? Lu Mingxian looked at the submissive Ning Shu and said with an ugly expression, Are you laughing at me in your heart right now? Ning Shu lowered his head and shook his head. It was not a joke. It was just an eye for an eye. Help me put on my clothes. Lu Mingxian ordered. She didn't want to stay in this place at all. Ning Shu grunted and picked up the clothes on the ground. Lu Mingxian lifted the quilt. There were bruises all over her body. There were bloodstains on the bed sheet. Ning Shu put on the clothes for Lu Mingxian. After putting on the clothes, he covered her face with a veil. Lu Mingxuan's walking posture was very strange. It was probably because of the pain from her wound. With every step she took, her face turned paler. Ning Shu couldn't help but shake his head. The wound had not healed. During this period of time, pooping would definitely make Lu Mingxian suffer a fate worse than death. Li Yu was really a beast. Lu Mingxian covered herself up tightly. After such a thing happened, Lu Mingxian had no face to see anyone. The only thing that supported her was seeing Lu Juning in the same miserable state as her. Lu Juning came back by herself. Her clothes were neat and tidy. Her hair was smooth and was still in the same bun as before. At first glance, it was obvious that nothing had happened. Second miss, where did you go? Are you okay? Are you hurt? Concubine Yun saw Lu Juning in perfect condition. Thinking that her daughter's innocence would be ruined, her eyes turned red. But in front of so many people, Concubine Yun had to pretend to care for her. Her face was distorted. When she spoke, she intentionally or unintentionally splashed dirty water on Lu Juning. Concubine Yun, I'm fine. I just strolled around. Lu Juning said coldly. You left for a long time. I was worried sick. Did someone kidnap you? A strange man appeared in the temple. I don't know if there are other people. Concubine Yun said without worry. Chapter 1307. Lu Juning heard Concubine Yun's words and saw the strange look in the eyes of the people around her. She couldn't help but frown. How could something happen to me? Lu Juning looked at Concubine Yun. I am blessed with good fortune. My deceased mother will definitely bless me and let some evil people go to hell. Concubine Yun's face trembled. She let out a long sigh. It's good that you are fine. Ahem. Third Prince Shenhao stood up. He looked at Lu Juning and said, actually, Miss Lu didn't go missing at all. I asked her for help, so she temporarily left Tiantai Temple. Third Prince Shenhao wanted to testify for Lu Juning so that she wouldn't be humiliated. At the same time, he wanted to leave a good impression in front of Lu Juning. But Lu Juning wasn't moved at all. Her eyes were full of disdain and hatred. Lu Juning couldn't control the urge to strangle this man. Lu Mingxian, who was wearing a veil, saw the third prince she admired testify for Lu Juning. She was angry and jealous. She couldn't help but say, Third Prince, why didn't you tell everyone before? Why did you let everyone search so hard for elder sister? I thought something happened to elder sister. As soon as Lu Mingxian spoke, she attracted everyone's attention to herself. The surrounding people discussed animatedly as they pointed at Lu Mingxian. Lu Mingxuan's face was pale. She turned and ran. But her butt was really painful. As soon as she ran, she pulled on the wound. It was so painful that Lu Mingxian felt like she was going to die. Lu Mingxuan's running posture was very strange. Ning Shu looked at Lu Juning. Her face was normal. He couldn't tell that she was a Chinese medicine person. He didn't know if she did it or if she did it in some other way. But so far, Lu Juning seemed to be fine. Miss Lu has been with this prince. At this time, a man appeared. This man had an imposing figure and a handsome face. He was simply a peerless talent in his generation. Lu Juning saw this man and her face couldn't help but darken. Shenhao saw him and couldn't help but shout, Imperial Uncle. Imperial Uncle. Ning Shu looked at this man. Lu Juning's destined one in this life had appeared. The current emperor's younger brother, third prince's uncle, Chen Yichen. Ning Shu couldn't help but rub his chin. It was Lu Juning's destined one who had saved her. She had been cheated so badly in her previous life, and now she had to find a member of the royal family. Was he really that lonely? Who knew what Lu Juning was thinking? Chen Yichen's status was noble, and he was able to suppress that scumbag. To be a firefighter, one had to be of high status. Otherwise, how could they save people? When third Prince Shenhao saw Chen Yichen, his expression was quite bad. What did Imperial Uncle mean when he said that he had been with second Miss Lu? It's exactly what you think. Chen Yichen said, they drank tea and played chess. After Great Master Mingran finished preaching about Buddhism, he went to Great Master Mingran for fortune-telling. Great Master Mingran can testify to this. Amitba, that is indeed the case. Master Mingran bowed and said. With the testimony of Prince Chen and Master Mingran, Lu Juning was naturally fine. Shenhao's expression was ugly. He felt that what he had done before was for a blind person to see. It was awkward and embarrassing, but he couldn't do anything to Chen Yichen. When he ascended the throne, he would definitely eradicate someone like Chen Yichen, who was a thorn in his side. Chen Yichen's existence was really annoying. Why would Chen Yichen, who had always been indifferent, stand up for Lu Juning? Did he take a fancy to Lu Juning's grandfather's military power and want to use it to rebel? Chen Yichen coveted the woman he had taken a fancy to. Third Prince Shenhao's imagination ran wild, and he was full of hostility towards Chen Yichen. Lu Juning didn't seem to like Chen Yichen. She ignored him, turned around, and left with a dark face, intending to leave Tiantai Temple. Chen Yichen looked at Lu Juning's back and said, Second Miss Lu, I will go to the Lu mansion to propose marriage. When Lu Juning heard the word, propose marriage, she staggered and almost tripped over her skirt. Chen Yichen, if you dare to say the word, propose marriage, I won't be polite to you. Lu Juning was like an angry cat. Ning Shu was speechless. Hey, wasn't she incomparably cold? Why did she become so arrogant? Could it be that the two of them were having an affair? Propose marriage, Chen Yichen said, with a straight face, and repeated seriously, propose marriage, propose marriage. The people around were a little stunned. Why did he suddenly jump to the matter of proposing marriage? Prince Chen liked the second miss of the Lu family, but it seemed that the second miss had not reached the age of 15 yet. Third Prince Shenhao's face was dark, and he was very aggrieved. This Prince Chen really wanted to steal the woman he liked. I won't marry you, Prince Chen. I'm not worthy of you. Lu Juning coldly refused, which made the eyes of the women around her turn red. She refused such a man's proposal. Concubine Yun, in particular, seemed to have been struck by lightning. Her daughter's chastity was ruined, and she could only marry the young duke, but Lu Juning was favored by a prince, and a prince with great power. How could people be appeased? Concubine Yun seemed to have pushed her daughter to Chen. Her daughter was better than Lu Juning. Not worthy of you. Chen glanced at the people present. If I say you're worthy of me, then you're worthy of me. Wait at home for me to propose marriage. It's up to you. Anyway, I won't marry you. Lu Juning turned and left. Ning Shu, this was the plot. There was a sentence that he not only had to say, but also had to stick it on his forehead. As a result, these two people had a qualitative breakthrough. Concubine Yun was too ashamed to stay in Tiantai Temple anymore, so she could only leave in disgrace. Before leaving, Monk Ming Ran also blacklisted the people of the Lu family. He euphemistically said that the people of the Lu family tarnished Buddhism and should not come to worship Buddha. This was very direct. Tiantai Temple was a royal temple, and the Lu family was forbidden to enter. The Lu family would probably be a laughing stock for a long time. Concubine Yun looked terrified. If the master knew about this, he would definitely blame her, and might even deprive her of the housekeeper's authority. Sitting in the sedan, Concubine Yun couldn't help but rub her eyebrows. Too many things had happened on this trip, and everything was not going well. Tiantai Temple was against her. In the future, even if she begged her to come, she would not come. What Master Ming Ran, what bullshit monk, helped Lu Juning make false testimony. The sedan swayed back to the Lu family. Before going to Tiantai Temple, it was still very grand. When they came back, the atmosphere couldn't be any lower. When Lu Mingxian returned home, she locked herself in her room and didn't come out. Her butt hurt, and the prince proposed marriage to Lu Juning. She was just a young duke, so Lu Mingxian was in a very bad mood. Envy, jealousy, resentment, hatred, and hatred were as deep as the sea. Chapter 1308. Ning Shu returned to his courtyard and couldn't help but stretch. It was really tiring. This trip was worth it. He solved a problem. At least he didn't have to marry Li Yu, that homosexual. He had to marry Lu Mingxian. Lu Yuanfan was a second-rank minister of the Ministry of War. He was in charge of military affairs, provisions, and weapons. He had a lot of power. He had defiled the daughter of the minister of the Ministry of War. He couldn't say no. Even if he couldn't marry Lu Mingxian, he couldn't marry another woman from the Lu family. But the bad thing was that Lu Juning and Chen had joined forces. The two of them together could oppress others, and no one could withstand it. Phew, fortunately, Miss is fine. What happened at Tiantai Mountain was really frightening, Yuan Xiang said. Ning Shu drank tea and said, so when there are many people, don't wander around. It's easy to get into trouble if you wander around. Third Mississippi, Concubine Lu hurried over and looked at Ning Shu. Did the Buddha worship go smoothly this time? Ning Shu shook her head. Something happened, but I'm fine. Why are you here? I was going to take a break and see you. I heard from the people who went to Tiantai Temple that something happened, so I hurried to see you. Concubine Lu breathed a sigh of relief. The madam wants to smash everything in the house, Concubine Lu said. Ning Shu took a sip of tea indifferently. It didn't matter. Anyway, it wasn't her things that were smashed. Concubine Lu asked Ning Shu, "Did the madam who went to Tiantai Temple ask about you?" Ning Shu shook her head. "I don't know. I'm still too early to be of marriageable age. I'll stay with you for a few more years." A concubine's daughter like her didn't have much of a sense of existence. Few madams were willing to marry a concubine's daughter to their son. Generally speaking, a concubine's daughter was usually married to a concubine's son. "What do you mean it's too early? It's only 3 or 4 years. The sooner you get engaged, the sooner you can embroider the dowry at home," Concubine Lu said. Ning Shu felt helpless, but she said, "Maybe someone will come to propose marriage." After confirming that Ning Shu was fine, Concubine Lu returned to her courtyard. What happened to Lu Mingxian made Lu Yuanfan fly into a rage. He called everyone in the family together, including his children and concubines. Even Lu Yujing, who usually didn't have much presence, was called over. Everyone stood in the room, trembling with fear, looking at Lu Yuanfan who was sitting on the chair. Lu Yuanfan's face was calm as he sipped his tea. He was panting slightly, clearly trying his best to suppress the anger in his heart. Everyone lowered their heads, not daring to look at Lu Yuanfan. Lu Yuanfan had a stubble, and his aura was very strong. Lu Juning's expression was indifferent. Upon closer inspection, one could see a mocking expression on her face. Ning Shu and Lu Yujing stood at the back with their heads bowed. "Master!" Concubine Yun cautiously called out. Bang! Lu Yuanfan smashed the teacup in his hand onto the ground. Pieces of the teacup flew everywhere, and smoke rose from the tea leaves and water. Ah! Concubine Yun was so scared that she screamed. Everyone else was so scared that their faces turned ashen. Lu Yujing, who was beside Ning Shu, was so scared that her whole body spasmed. She almost fell to the ground. Ning Shu reached out and grabbed her arm, stabilizing her body. Lu Yuanfan scanned everyone present and roared loudly, "Where is Lu Mingxian? Where the hell did she go?" Lu Yuanfan's voice was like thunder, exploding in everyone's ears. "Master, Mingxian is not feeling well. She is resting." Concubine Yun said softly with a trembling expression. Li Yu was very violent. At that time, under the influence of the drug, her heart was only filled with lust. In addition, she entered from the back without any lubrication at all. Lu Mingxuan's body was severely injured. Since returning, she had been lying in bed and hadn't eaten much. She was afraid that she would excrete and hurt her wound. Rest? How can she still have the face to live? Send her to the family temple to rest. "Master, you can't do this to Mingxian. She was framed. Moreover, the Marquis Fu has already agreed to marry her." Concubine Yin begged. "Framed her? There are so many people who didn't frame her, but framed her alone. Immoral. Do you think the Marquis Fu is willing to marry a virtuous daughter-in-law?" Lu Yuanfan roared. "It's true. Madame Li said that she would agree on a date. Concubine Yun would never allow her precious daughter to be sent to a bitter cold family temple to live a life that was neither human nor ghost. Her life would be over like this." Lu Yuanfan took a deep breath. She was forbidden by Great Master Ming Ran from going to Tiantai Temple to worship Buddha. "This is the daughter you taught to do such an immoral thing. The emperor goes to Tiantai Temple every year to worship. My family has been criticized by Great Master Ming Ran like this. Where do you want me to put my face? Where do you want me to put my face? When I go to court tomorrow, I don't know how the people in court will laugh at me." "Master." Concubine Yun knelt on the ground. There were pieces of teacup on the ground, which pricked Concubine Yun's leg. "The Marquis Fu said that they will marry Mingxian." Lu Yuanfan rubbed between his eyebrows. "It's really worrisome. What's going on between you and Prince Chen?" Lu Yuanfan looked at Lu Juning. Lu Juning's expression was cold. "Nothing. If not, why did you say that you want to propose marriage in front of so many people? Do you have something to do with Prince Chen? Lu Yuanfan was so angry that he didn't know what to say. When Lu Juning heard this, her expression immediately became very ugly. Father, please mind your words. Lu Juning called Lu Yuanfan father, not the more intimate father. Lu Yuanfan was stunned for a moment. Ning Shu looked at Lu Juning. Lu Juning's face was livid. Did something happen between Lu Juning and Prince Chen? Was that why she was so angry? With the powder she made, it was not so easy to detoxify. They must have had physical contact. If the two of them had physical intimacy, then there would be nothing that could stop the raging flames of love. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, feeling very unwilling in his heart. Instead, he helped the two of them. The original owner's wish was not to marry Li Yu and not to be framed. Now she had avoided this round of framing, but there might be a next time. As long as Lu Mingxian and Li Yu didn't get married, this matter would not be over. Lu Juning said coldly, I have nothing to do with Prince Chen, so don't think about putting me together with Prince Chen. After saying that, Lu Juning turned around and left, her back cold and arrogant. Lu Yuanfan was a little stunned and didn't know what to say for a moment. His face darkened. Master. Concubine Yun called carefully. Manage the affairs of the family well. If there is a next time, you have to take care of the affairs of the family. Forget it. Lu Yuanfan waved his hand. And all of you, calm down. Recently, have you really blasphemed Buddhism? Lu Yuanfan wanted to hold a religious ceremony. Yes. Everyone hurriedly saluted. Chapter 1309. Alright, all of you leave. Lu Yuanfan let out a long sigh, he looked very tired. Lu Yujing was so scared that she couldn't walk. Ning Shu reached out to help her out of the courtyard. Lu Yujing said in fear, Third sister, it's so scary. It's okay. Ning Shu said. How can it be okay, after something like this happened to eldest sister? What will we do when we talk about marriage in the future? Lu Yujing said worriedly. Lu family's reputation has been ruined by eldest sister, no one will come to our family to propose marriage. Ning Shu didn't know what to say. In this ancient era where everything could be implicated, one person's actions would affect the entire family. Third sister, what should we do? Lu Yujing looked at Ning Shu, and you're older than me. Ning Shu, so ancient children matured early, a 10-year-old child could think of these things. When the boat reaches the bridge, it'll cross the bridge. Ning Shu said casually. Lu Yujing, whose body was weak and full of worry, was helped back by the nanny. Concubine Lu Ning Shu said, This time, madam. Ning Shu knew what concubine Lu wanted to say, this time concubine Yun might lose her position as the housekeeper. Letting a concubine manage the backyard already caused rumors, this time going to Tiantai Temple was a mess. Her daughter even lost her chastity before marriage. Sure enough, not long after thinking about it, she still couldn't swallow the anger and didn't let concubine Yun manage the backyard. She still handed over the backyard to her legitimate daughter Lu Juning. Lu Juning took over the power that was delivered to her door. The first thing she did was to move away the luxurious decorations in concubine Yun's room. Because these decorations were beyond the standard of a concubine. At the same time, she also took away the things in Lu Mingxuan's room, many of them were her mother's dowry. They were taken over by this shameless mother and daughter. Lu Mingxian was lying on the bed, watching these people move away the things in the room, the exquisite double-sided embroidered screen, the white jade decorations, and the luxurious jewelry. Lu Juning, I will never live under the same sky as you in this life. Lu Mingxian glared hatefully at Lu Juning, who was standing in the room directing the servants to move things. Lu Juning looked at Lu Mingxian coldly. She raised her chin slightly and looked down at Lu Mingxian on the bed. Big sister, you still have to take good care of your body. Lu Juning said with a slight smile. Lu Mingxian was despised by such a gaze, as if she was a piece of trash, so lowly. Lu Mingxuan's heart was filled with hatred. It's you. You framed me. Lu Mingxian gripped the blanket so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Big sister, what are you talking about? I don't understand at all. Big sister needs to recuperate and then join the Marquis's mansion in a grand manner. Lu Juning said coldly. Lu Juning felt that this matter was very strange and suspicious. In her previous life, he was supposed to be Lu Yuan's husband, but now he was involved with Lu Mingxian. Things had changed. Well, she didn't have anything to do with that Prince Chen in her previous life, but in this life, Lu Juning didn't want to think about what happened that day. After being drugged with the aphrodisiac, she threw herself at a man, but she didn't know that it was Prince Chen. Many things had changed. Put the things down, put them down. Lu Jinghui held the slingshot and shot the hand that was moving the things. You bad woman, put down my mother's and sister's things. Lu Jinghui shouted at Lu Juning fiercely and pointed the slingshot at Lu Juning. Lu Juning looked indifferent. If I were you, I wouldn't shoot the marbles, because now I'm in charge of the backyard and can talk to father. If you continue to be so naughty, I'll ask father to find you more than 3 teachers to teach you. You are the only male heir of the Lu family and will inherit the Lu family in the future, so you must be very, very promising to make father satisfied. You. Lu Jinghui was flustered and exasperated. He wanted to shoot the marbles, but he didn't dare to. More than 3 teachers. Lu Jinghui couldn't imagine more than 3 teachers. Jinghui, this is between big sister and her. Don't get involved. Lu Mingxian said to Lu Jinghui. Lu Mingxian understood that now she and her mother were at a disadvantage, and Lu Jinghui was her and her mother's support. A man shouldn't be involved in a backyard fight, even if Lu Jinghui was only a 7 or 8-year-old boy. Big sister. Lu Jinghui shouted indignantly. Get out. Under the pressure of the 3 teachers, Lu Jinghui could only leave. Lu Juning looked at Lu Jinghui's back and narrowed her eyes slightly, obviously thinking about something. Big sister, have a good rest. Lu Juning saw that most of the things in the house had been moved out, so she left after saying this. Lu Mingxian clenched her fists. Even if she had to risk her life, she would drag Lu Juning down to hell with her. She was already like this, so she wouldn't let Lu Juning have an easy time. Just because you're the daughter of the first wife, you're incomparably noble, so I'll trample your pride into the mud. Because you're too annoying. Lu Juning's power didn't change Ning Shu much. There shouldn't be much change. What he didn't have was still nothing. Ning Shu stayed in the yard embroidering and occasionally received the worried Lu Yujing. Lu Yujing looked as if the sky was falling down, so Ning Shu didn't know what to say. It was useless to worry. Instead of worrying, it was better to calm down and make a few more embroidery pieces and sell them for more money. Instead of looking forward to the future in-laws, it was better to save money to survive. With money in hand, no matter what happened, they could deal with it. Ning Shu didn't look forward to marriage, so he didn't have any scruples and didn't care. Ning Shu looked at the embroidery in his hand. It was a lifelike begonia flower. During this time, Ning Shu didn't embroider anything else, only the begonia flower. In this way, Ning Shu's needlework skills became more and more proficient. Lu Yujing's learning speed became slower and slower. She was still young, so he didn't know what to worry about. Who knew what would happen in the future? Moreover, there were still many years before Lu Yujing's hairpin ceremony. It was too far-fetched to think about what would happen in a few years. Ning Shu didn't want Lu Yujing to come to his yard. She always had a sad face, which made him feel uncomfortable. In addition to staying in Ning Shu's yard, Lu Yujing also occasionally went to curry favor with Lu Juning. She looked quite sad. It wasn't easy for anyone to live. Lu Juning was the third prince's wife in her previous life. She managed the matters of the mansion and became the empress. She managed the matters of the backyard in an orderly manner. Lu Yuanfan, who was in an extremely bad mood, planned to let his daughter manage the backyard if there was one thing that he liked. Concubine Yun and Lu Yujing didn't have any privileges anymore. Everything was like an ordinary concubine and concubine's daughter. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but hard to go from extravagance to frugality. The two felt very uncomfortable with their current life. Lu Manor was very calm, but there was a kind of calm before the storm, which made people feel very depressed. Chapter 13:10. Madame Li of the Hofu brought her son to propose marriage to Lu family's eldest Miss Lu Mingxian. She came with a lot of dowry and was quite arrogant. Lu Yuanfan didn't even think about it and agreed. After all, a daughter who had lost her chastity could marry Hofu, it was the greatest value, and it would save Lu family's face as much as possible. Both of them were in love and couldn't help but sound better. Concubine Yun was suppressed by Lu Juning during this period of time. She used to flaunt her power in the manor, but now that she was gone, everyone didn't put her in their eyes. Now that Hofu finally came to propose marriage to her daughter, Concubine Yun immediately ran to Lu Yuanfan and tactfully proposed that she wanted to manage the harem. As a result, she was scolded by Lu Yuanfan, and Concubine Yun was scolded to the point of crying. Concubine Yun was so angry that her whole body trembled, and she couldn't wait to tear Lu Juning apart. But now she had to prepare the dowry for her daughter. When preparing the dowry, there was nothing that could be taken out. The good things from before were all taken away by Lu Juning. Concubine Yun had to take out her private storehouse to make up the dowry for her daughter. Lu Mingxian rarely went out of the courtyard. If she wasn't taking care of her body, she was embroidering the dowry. Although she couldn't get back the housekeeper position, her daughter married the eldest son of the Hofu, which could be considered as venting her anger, and could block some unpleasant words in the manner. "Daughter, hurry up and embroider the dowry." Concubine Yun said to Lu Mingxian, "The date is set in a hurry, hurry up." Lu Mingxuan's whole person was listless, and there was no joy of getting married. "Mother, I feel that something is wrong, I don't want to marry Li Yu." Lu Mingxian said. "What are you saying? If you don't want to marry Li Yu, who do you want to marry? You can only marry Li Yu, don't be willful." Concubine Yun said angrily. "Li Yu is not bad, he looks good, his family background is good, and he doesn't have any bad habits, and he didn't make any trouble." Concubine Yun persuaded her daughter. "Since it's decided, don't think about it. Daughter, you have no way out, or you can only marry Li Yu." Lu Mingxian sighed, "It's all because of Bitao, that cheap girl, it's all because of Bitao, together with Lu Juning to harm me." "Oh right, where's Bitao?" Concubine Yun asked. Lu Mingxian shook her head. "I haven't seen her since I came back. I think Lu Juning has already dealt with her." "All right, let's embroider the dowry. I have to keep an eye on Lu Juning. It wouldn't be good if she ruined your marriage." Concubine Yun said. Lu Mingxuan's expression was indifferent. Thinking of the handsome third prince, Lu Mingxuan's heart turned cold. She liked the third prince, not Li Yu. So now that she was going to marry Li Yu, it had nothing to do with the third prince. Lu Mingxian felt that it shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be. She wanted to be with the third prince. Ning Shu knew that the Marquis mansion had come to propose marriage to Lu Mingxian. Ning Shu let out a sigh of relief in his heart. Now he just had to wait for the marriage. Usually, other than embroidery, Ning Shu would also write some self-defense powder, such as knockout powder. The world was very dangerous. He had to have the power to protect himself. If Lu Yueyun came back, he would make these powder and have some power to protect himself. Third sister, third sister. Lu Yujing happily came to find Ning Shu. Ning Shu was embroidering roses. He didn't even raise his head and asked, "What made you so happy?" Lu Yujing walked over. Looking at the embroidery in Ning Shu's hands, she asked, "What flower is this? How come I have never seen it before? Why does it look like it's about to bloom? It's even more beautiful when it's about to bloom. What made you so happy?" Ning Shu asked. "Big sister is going to marry into the marquis mansion." Lu Yujing sat down and said. Ning Shu looked at her. Not long ago she looked like the sky was falling down. Now she was so happy. Ning Shu thought of duckweed, rootless duckweed. When the lake was calm, the duckweed would grow steadily. If the lake was turbulent, the duckweed would shake. It would not be peaceful. And the water plants that took root could not only absorb the nutrients in the soil, they could also hold on tightly to the ground. Ning Shu used a needle to pierce the cloth and said with a smile, "It's not like you are going to marry into the marquis mansion. Why are you so happy? I am a concubine's daughter. How can I marry into the marquis mansion? Third sister is joking. What I mean is that once big sister marries, it will not tarnish the Lu family's reputation. When the time comes, we will also have people to propose marriage." Ning Shu sighed. That was someone else's life. No matter how good the Lu family's reputation was, it might not benefit you. The Lu family's reputation was bad. They would definitely be implicated. It was just that unfair. The hairpin on your head is not bad. Ning Shu looked at the hairpin on Lu Yujing's hair. It was made of silver and had a dancing butterfly. The butterfly's wings were as thin as a cicada's. As it moved, the wings would tremble. It looked like it was about to spread its wings and fly. Silver was not very valuable, but the craftsmanship made this hairpin very valuable. With Lu Yujing's situation, she should not be able to own this hairpin. Lu Yujing touched the hairpin on her head and said with a smile, "Is it pretty?" Ning Shu nodded, "It's pretty." "Where did it come from?" Ning Shu asked. "Oh, it's something my mother left behind," Lu Yujing said. Ning Shu made a sound of acknowledgement. Lu Yujing and Ning Shu talked for a while before leaving. Ning Shu continued to embroider. "Miss, something happened to Mississippi." Yuan Xiang panted as she entered the room. She did not even have time to bow and stammered, "Miss, something big happened." "What happened?" Ning Shu put down the embroidery and asked. "Something happened to fifth young master. Fifth young master is sick." Yuan Xiang calmed down. Lu Jinghui was sick. He was usually lively. Everyone in the marquis mansion would take a detour when they saw him. He was the devil incarnate. How could he be sick? What illness? Ning Shu asked. It's smallpox. Fifth young master's courtyard has been quarantined. Yuan Xiang said. Smallpox. In this era, smallpox was a disease with a slim chance of survival. If one survived, they would never get smallpox again. If they could not survive, they would die. Lu Jinghui had smallpox all of a sudden. Ning Shu tidied up and went to Lu Jinghui's courtyard to take a look. "Miss, that's smallpox. How can you go? Besides, the courtyard has been quarantined. I'll just go and take a look," Ning Shu said. At the entrance of Lu Jinghui's courtyard, there were many people standing there. "My son, Jinghui." Concubine Yin cried until her body went limp. She was supported by the servant girl beside her. Her expression was extremely sorrowful. Lu Mingxian, who was embroidering the dowry in the courtyard, also came out. She stood guard at the entrance of the courtyard, looking extremely worried. Basically, the whole family was guarding here. Ning Shu lowered his head and walked over, standing there obediently. Lu Yuanfan kept looking into the courtyard with a worried expression. Chapter 13:11 It was fine if they didn't have a legitimate son, but now their only male son was diagnosed with smallpox. Was the Lu family going to die out? If these daughters were replaced with sons, how good would that be? Lu Juning stood there coldly, her expression indifferent. Woof woof. There was the sound of a puppy whimpering at the foot of the wall. Ning Shu turned his head and saw a small puppy at the foot of the wall. Ning Shu was a bit puzzled. Where did this dog come from? Lu Juning said to the servant girl beside her, "Find someone to take that dog away." Yes. Ning Shu asked Lu Juning, "Second sister, where did this dog come from?" Lu Juning shook her head, "Fifth brother is naughty. He saw a dog vendor on the street and insisted on buying a dog." "Oh," Ning Shu replied. She watched as the servant carried the puppy away. Ning Shu looked at the puppy. The puppy stuck out its tongue and breathed. Ning Shu slightly narrowed his eyes and touched Yuan Xiang's foot. Yuan Xiang looked at Ning Shu in confusion. Ning Shu whispered in her ear, "Follow that servant and see how he deals with the dog. Don't touch the dog, okay?" Yuan Xiang nodded and chased after him without leaving a trace. Everyone's attention was on the courtyard. In addition, there were many people here. Naturally, no one noticed Yuan Xiang. When the doctor came out of the courtyard, Lu Yuanfan immediately asked, "Is it really smallpox?" The doctor nodded, "It's really smallpox." Lu Yuanfan couldn't help but close his eyes, "Please try your best to save my son. The reward can be discussed." "I'll try my best." The doctor said, "The child cannot be taken care of without someone. Find someone who can take care of the child." Concubine Yun almost fainted from crying. Lu Mingxian turned her head and looked at Lu Juning, "It's you. It must be you who harmed my brother. It must be you. Lu Juning, you are so cruel." Lu Mingxian threw herself at Lu Juning. Lu Juning avoided Lu Mingxian and coldly said, "I don't know what you are talking about. Don't blame me if anything happens. It's you." Lu Mingxian stared at Lu Mingxian with bloodshot eyes. "You want to take revenge on me? What does that have to do with my brother?" Her younger brother was her and her mother's support. Even if she married into the Marquis' estate, her younger brother would still be her support. In the future, when her younger brother inherits the Lu family, she can also straighten her back in the Marquis' household, have the confidence, and have the support of her maternal family. "Big sister, tell me, why should I take revenge on you?" Lu Juning looked at her coldly. "Enough. What are you doing? Scram. What are you doing here?" Lu Yuanfan rubbed his forehead and roared at Lu Mingxian. "Father, it must be Lu Juning who harmed little brother. It's really her." Lu Mingxian said bitterly. She knelt on the ground and grabbed Lu Yuanfan's clothes. "Dad, please believe me. Your little brother is lying inside right now. What is more important than your little brother's life? Scram, don't crowd around here." Lu Yuanfan was so angry that he kicked Lu Mingxian away. Lu Mingxian was kicked in the chest and felt a piercing pain. "Mingxian, Mingxian." Concubine Yun quickly helped Lu Mingxian up from the ground and stared at Lu Juning with hatred. Lu Juning didn't look at her and turned to leave. Ning Shu also left and returned to his courtyard to wait for Yuan Xiang to return. He didn't know if Lu Jinghui could hold on. Ning Shu felt a bit uncertain. The smallpox incident this time was very sudden. Ning Shu drank tea while waiting for Yuan Xiang. After a while, Yuan Xiang returned. Ning Shu asked, "How did you deal with it?" "Killed it and buried it," Yuan Xiang said. Ning Shu stood up and asked, "Where is it buried? Bring me to see it." "Okay." Yuan Xiang brought Ning Shu to a remote courtyard near the backyard. Yuan Xiang pointed at the grass. "Miss, it's buried here." Ning Shu used a wooden stick to push the soil away. Looking at the little puppy's corpse, he moved closer to smell it. The stick poked at the little puppy's corpse and poked at the little puppy's tongue. The puppy's tongue was red and some parts were bleeding. "Miss, what are you doing?" Yuan Xiang saw Ning Shu squatting and poking at the dog's corpse with a stick. No matter how she looked at it, she felt her hair stand on end. Ning Shu buried the dog with soil. "Let's go back." After returning to the room, Ning Shu asked for medicinal powder to wipe his hands. He didn't want his shoes or anything else. He also asked Yuan Xiang to wash her hands with boiling vinegar. Ning Shu let out a long breath. The world was too dangerous. There was definitely something wrong with this dog. This was to cut off concubine Yun and Lu Mingxuan's escape route. Lu Jinghui was Lu Mingxian and concubine Yun's escape route. In the backyard, the child was the woman's support. Men put so many women in the backyard for two reasons. First, it was for sex. Second, it was for more children. But don't underestimate a woman's jealousy. Men probably didn't think that the more women there were, the fewer children there would be. Children were the victims and consumables of the backyard struggle. Even women themselves were prepared to consume their children. Lu Juning probably wanted Lu Mingxian and concubine Yun to have a taste of losing their children. Ning Shu wiped his hands. He didn't know how Lu Juning would deal with her. There was also the marriage between Lu Mingxian and Li Yu. Few people knew that Li Yu liked men. For outsiders, Li Yu was a man with good conditions. Would Lu Juning let Lu Mingxian marry Lu Juning? Ning Shu rubbed his head. He didn't know how far Lu Juning would go. After the Marquis's mansion came to propose marriage, Prince Chinichen also came to propose marriage. The scale of the proposal was much larger than that of the Marquis's mansion. Boxes of things were carried into the Marquis's mansion. The courtyard was full. Prince Chinichen personally came to propose marriage, but was rejected by Lu Juning. As a result, Prince Chen directly stayed in Lu's mansion. If she didn't agree, he wouldn't leave. He also threatened Lu Juning that if she didn't agree, he would tell her about their relationship. Lu Juning was so angry that she was about to explode. But she couldn't do anything to Prince Chen. Her father even politely let him stay in Lu's mansion. Ning Shu thought, damn it. Anyway, since he had taken Lu Juning's body, he would only have Lu Juning in this life. No matter what Lu Juning did, she would follow her loyally like a loyal dog. In her previous life, she met a scumbag. In this life, she would reward a loyal and affectionate man. And it would be for a lifetime. During this period, Prince Chen didn't have any concubines. It was as if he was waiting for Lu Juning. To be honest, was there really something wrong with Prince Chen's body? He didn't even have a concubine. "Miss, there have been a lot of good things in Lu's mansion recently. First Miss and Second Miss have both been proposed marriage, and each of them has a higher status than the other. Is it your turn next?" Yuan Xiang poured tea for Ning Shu, looking happy. Ning Shu embroidered lilies this time. She said casually, "It's still early. Things wouldn't end like this. Lu Juning wouldn't end like this." She had to protect herself and concubine Lu in this precarious time. First Miss and Second Miss both have families. Miss must be next. Yuan Xiang said. "What you see is only a false prosperity." Ning Shu muttered. Chapter 13:12. No one knew how long this prosperity would last. Lu Juning wanted to destroy the Lu family. In her previous life, after the third prince ascended the throne, the Lu family flourished and had 2 empresses. However, Lu Juning's maternal grandfather's family was executed. Even the infant child was not spared. The evidence of treason was provided by Lu Yuanfan. Therefore, Lu Juning would not let the Lu family off. She wanted to destroy the Lu family bit by bit. Ning Shu could understand the scum's actions. The emperor did not want to see the great general holding military power. If he allowed others to sleep peacefully beside him, he would have to constantly be on guard against rebellion. If that happened, the emperor's throne would be gone. Lu Yuanfan grasped the opportunity and understood what the emperor was thinking. This was politics. Marriage was unreliable. When the interests were aligned, everyone would hold hands and be good friends. However, when the interests were against each other, they would give up. Lu Yuanfan knew that the emperor was dissatisfied with his Yu family. The two families were in-laws. If something happened to the great general's residence, the Lu family would be implicated. Yuan Xiang did not understand what Ning Shu was talking about. She poured Ning Shu another cup of tea and stood at the side to watch Ning Shu embroider. Mrs. Needlework is getting better and better. Yuan Xiang praised. Ning Shu held the embroidery and looked left and right. She nodded. It's pretty good. I'm really good. Ha ha ha. Lu Yujing would visit Ning Shu from time to time. Ning Shu saw that she was always wearing exquisite jewelry. The fabric on her body was also better than before. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. Was this also her mother's dowry? Ning Shu was too lazy to ask Lu Yujing where these things came from. Recently, Lu Yujing and Lu Juning were closer. What did Lu Juning want to do? Ning Shu asked Lu Yujing, "You. What's wrong?" Lu Yujing asked. She was holding a brush and writing. The silver bracelet on her wrist was very exquisite. Ning Shu wanted to tell Lu Yujing to be careful, but he did not know what to say. Should he just tell her to be careful of Lu Juning? Who knew if Lu Yujing would tell these words to Lu Juning or not? Ning Shu felt that Lu Juning had been suspecting her since the incident at Tiantai Temple, but there was no evidence to prove that she had done it. Moreover, Ning Shu looked at the silver bracelet on Lu Yujing's wrist. Lu Yujing was currying favor with Ning Juning and Lu Juning. It was hard to guarantee that she wouldn't say anything for the sake of benefits. It's nothing. You wrote it wrong, Ning Shu said lightly. Am I wrong? That's right. Ning Shu continued to embroider. Lu Yujing asked Ning Shu, "Third sister, have you seen Prince Chen?" Ning Shu nodded. Sometimes when he went out for a stroll in the courtyard, he would meet Prince Chen, who was really a handsome man. He had a noble status and was loyal to Lu Juning. She fell in love with him after sleeping with him. Ning Shu's heart didn't waver at all when he saw the two of them showing off their love. Damn it. Lu Juning was still cold to Chen Yichen, but Ning Shu could see that the two of them were having an affair. A strong woman was afraid of a pestering man. Was it really good to let Chen Yichen, an outsider, live in Lu's mansion? Yes, Ning Shu said lightly. To be honest, Ning Shu felt that Chen Yichen was an innocent bystander. Just because he slept with Lu Juning, he wanted to dedicate his body and mind to Lu Juning. He got involved in Lu Juning's grievances, became Lu Juning's protection, cleaned up the mess for Lu Juning, and slapped the scum in the face together, so that Lu Juning could do things unscrupulously. He was like a puppet. Yes, Ning Shu felt like a puppet. Because her husband was unfaithful in her previous life, she had a loyal man in this life. Prince Chen is so good to second sister, but second sister is still cold to Prince Chen, Lu Yujing said. The harder it is to get something, the more precious it is. The more chips you pay, the more reluctant you are to give it up, just like the chips on the gambling table. Ning Shu said lightly, otherwise, how can it show that Prince Chen is good to second sister? If she was cheap, others would also be cheap to her. Lu Yujing nodded as if she didn't understand. I hope my future husband can be so good to me. Ning Shu curled her lips. It's better to be good to yourself than to expect others to be good to you. Ning Shu never wronged herself. If others were good to her, she would be good to them. If others wanted to kill her, she would definitely kill them. No one could guarantee that they would be good to a person for a lifetime, but they could guarantee that they would be good to themselves for a lifetime. It depended on how they lived. Third sister, what are you thinking in your head? Lu Yujing asked in bewilderment. You're different from what we're thinking. It's not the same. I always treat others with kindness and then expect them to repay me with kindness. If they don't repay me, I will be disappointed and desperate. If you treat yourself with half of this kindness, you won't be like this. She didn't love herself and expected others to love her. If she didn't expect to be rewarded, resentment would arise. To Ning Shu, it was purely a case of mental illness. After staying in the hospital for more than 10 years, Ning Shu thought about relieving her pain every day. No one could do it for her. No one could relieve the pain of chemotherapy for her. Neither the doctors nor her family could. Ning Shu was most afraid of chemotherapy. The pain was like inserting a needle into the bone. It was so painful that she wanted to die. Ning Shu didn't let herself think about chemotherapy. Every time she had chemotherapy, she would say in her heart that pain meant that she was alive and could see the world for one more day. She tried to make herself happy. Ning Shu hadn't thought about the past for a long time. She had traveled through so many worlds and seen so much resentment. It made Ning Shu feel that she had to love herself more. No one was good to her. She just had to be good to herself. She begged for others' love. That was a pet. If others treated her well, she would be grateful. If others didn't treat her well, she would make them feel even worse to please herself. Ning Shu smiled as she embroidered. It's getting late. Third sister, I'm going back. Lu Yujing said. Ning Shu nodded and looked at Lu Yujing's back. Yuan Xiang said, Miss, why do I feel that fourth miss has changed? Yes, she has changed. She has become more confident and confident. The Lu Yujing of the past was submissive. Yuan Xiang nodded. I have this feeling. How did fourth miss change like this? Ning Shu didn't say anything. Lu Yujing's confidence came from her jewelry, clothes, and her close relationship with Lu Juning, who was now in charge of the backyard. Everyone had their own fate. Ning Shu didn't want to say anything. By the way, how is fifth brother? Ning Shu asked. Lu Jinghui's courtyard had always been closed. Almost no one dared to go near it. Yuan Xiang shook her head. I heard that it's still not good. He has a recurring fever. I heard that when he has a fever, his whole body will convulse. Concubine Yun has always been taking care of fifth young master. Then the situation is not optimistic. Ning Shu supported her chin and said. Chapter 13:13. Ning Shu couldn't intervene in this kind of thing. If he could survive the smallpox, then he could live. If he couldn't, young miss, it will be eldest miss wedding day soon. If fifth young master's illness doesn't get better, then eldest miss wedding will be difficult. Yuan Xiang sighed like an old man. Yes, eldest sister's wedding is near. Ning Shu pondered. If her brother was in this state, then it wouldn't be good for him to get married at this time. Ning Shu, damn it. In the middle of the night, Ning Shu went to Lu Jinghui's courtyard. He climbed over the wall and jumped onto the roof to see Lu Jinghui's condition. Opening the roof, Ning Shu saw Lu Jinghui on the bed. His face was ashen and his breathing was rapid. His face was covered in chicken pox. Just by looking at his face, Ning Shu felt that Lu Jinghui might not be able to endure. Dogs had so many bacteria and smallpox. Lu Jinghui was just a child and his immune system was weak. Concubine Yun stayed by the bed and kept wiping her tears. Ning Shu left the courtyard and returned to his room. Ning Shu opened his makeup box. There were some jewelry and silver inside. These were all his family assets. Ning Shu covered the box and hid it. Then he sat cross-legged on the bed and cultivated. In the end, Lu Jinghui didn't endure and passed away a few days later. Because of his age, Lu Jinghui died young. He didn't even have a funeral. Lu Jinghui was buried in a coffin. Lu Yuanfan's broad back was bent. Concubine Yun fainted from crying. The Lu family didn't even have a male heir. Their eldest daughter was about to get married. The Lu family didn't even have a male heir. Lu Yuanfan's cheeks were tightly clenched. His face was trembling. Ning Shu looked at Lu Juning. Lu Juning's expression was still cold. After Lu Jinghui was buried, Lu Yuanfan fell ill and didn't go to court for a few days. Anyway, the atmosphere in the Lu family was very strange. Concubine Yun's hair was white. Every time she looked at Lu Juning, her eyes were like they were dipped in poison. Ning Shu felt that concubine Yun wanted to perish together with Lu Juning. After Lu Jinghui's funeral, it was time for Lu Mingxuan's wedding. Red lanterns were gradually hung in the house. After the funeral, it was time to do something red to wash away the bad luck. However, they didn't do it on a grand scale. Lu Mingxian was escorted onto the bridal sedan. Seeing Li Yu riding a tall horse to marry Lu Mingxian, Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. Amidst the sounds of firecrackers, Lu Mingxian boarded the bridal sedan chair and headed in the direction of the Marquis' estate. She finally didn't have to marry Li Yu. Ning Shu stretched lazily. Living in this palm-sized place was really tiring, really tiring. With one less person, the Lu residence became much quieter. However, after Lu Mingxian married Li Yu, she was supposed to return home 3 days later, but she didn't. Lu Juning, I'm going to kill you. You'll die a horrible death. A roar came from Lu Mingxuan's courtyard. Immediately after, a woman rushed out. She was wearing a wedding dress, but it was very wrinkled and had some dust on it. Her hair was also messy and she was glaring fiercely at Lu Juning. Ning Shu was stunned when he saw this woman, because this woman was Lu Mingxian. Shouldn't Lu Mingxian be in the Marquis' estate? Lu Mingxuan's sudden appearance stunned the Lu family. Mingxian, why are you here? Concubine Yun's face was pale. Mother, mother. Lu Mingxian sobbed and hugged concubine Yun, unable to speak. What's going on? Lu Yuanfan flipped the table. Lu Yujing, that bitch, took my place. She pretended to be me. Lu Mingxuan's voice was bleeding. They tied me up and stuffed me under the bed. I watched that bitch Lu Yujing take my place. Lu Juning, I'm going to kill you. Lu Mingxian rushed towards Lu Juning, crying blood and looking painful and desperate. However, Lu Juning had a protector by her side. Prince Chen, Chen, kicked Lu Mingxian away. Lu Mingxian spat out a mouthful of blood. Concubine Yun hugged Lu Mingxian and looked at Lu Juning calmly and crazily. Ning Shu was shocked. What happened? Lu Yujing took Lu Mingxuan's place and married into the Lord Protector's manor. How could he do such an unimaginable thing? Lu Yujing was only 10 years old. She married a homosexual at the age of 10 and ended the rest of her life. Judging from Lu Mingxuan's words, Lu Yujing was willing. Ning Shu couldn't help but close his eyes. He didn't know what to say. Lu Yujing married at such a young age in order to fight for glory and wealth. He didn't expect there to be such a twist. Ning Shu couldn't help but look at Lu Juning. Her expression was indifferent. When she stood with Chen, they looked like an immortal couple. He could not only prevent Lu Mingxian from marrying Li Yu, but also put the entire Lu family on the charcoal fire and poured oil on it. The Lord Protector's manor would definitely ask the Lu family for an explanation about the marriage. They might not be able to be in-laws, and they might even become enemies. Sure enough, when it came to scheming against others, she was not soft-hearted at all. Master, you have to make a decision for us. Mingxian, what should Mingxian do? Concubine Yun cried and begged Lu Yuanfan. Her daughter had been replaced. What should her daughter do? Her son was dead, and her daughter had been married off. Concubine Yun's face was ashen, and she kowtowed to Lu Yuanfan. Master, please save our daughter. Lu Yuanfan clutched his chest and panted heavily. He looked at Lu Juning. You have to give me an explanation for this matter. How do you want me to explain it to the Lord Protector's manor? Lu Juning calmly said, Daughter didn't know about this matter, but as far as I know, eldest sister never wanted to marry Li Yu, so she directed and acted out this play. Not only could she get rid of marrying Li Yu, but she could also frame this matter on daughter. Lu Mingxian screamed crazily, You're talking nonsense. It was clearly you, it was you. Lu Juning looked down at Lu Mingxian and said, It's been 3 days since the wedding. You haven't eaten or drunk anything. How are you still alive? You still have the strength to shout at me? That's because someone sent me food. Lu Mingxian said. Someone sent you food? You clearly hid yourself. You clearly had many opportunities to call for help. Why did you only come out now? Lu Juning had a puzzled expression. Lu Mingxian tried hard to explain. That's because they didn't give me a chance. When I was eating, they stuffed food into my mouth and covered my mouth. Then how did you come out now? It was those servant girls who let me go. The more Lu Mingxian said, the more she made things worse. The more she said, the more mistakes she made. Ning Shu felt that Lu Mingxian was telling the truth, because Lu Mingxian could only marry Li Yu. If even Li Yu was cut off, the rest of her life would be bleak. Father, did you hear that? It was clearly eldest sister who didn't want to marry Li Yu, so she thought of this. Lu Juning said to Lu Yuanfan. Lu Yuanfan's chest rose and fell. He walked in front of Lu Mingxian and stared at her maliciously. Chapter 13-14. Lu Yuanfan felt that the Lu family had been very unlucky recently, and the source of the bad luck was this eldest daughter of his. First, her innocence was tarnished at Tiantai Temple, and then she married into the Marquis's household with great difficulty. Now, she actually married his 10-year-old daughter into the Marquis's household. Lu Yuanfan couldn't hold on any longer and almost fainted. His vision was blurry. Lu Mingxian was stared at by her father's fierce eyes, and her whole body trembled uncontrollably. Lu Mingxian grabbed her father's clothes. Father, you have to believe your daughter. I was really tied up. Lu Mingxian begged with a sorrowful expression. Lu Yuanfan kicked her away. You still have the nerve to say that? Look at how the Lu family's face has been ruined. Father. Lu Mingxian crawled back. I was really wronged. Really. Please believe your daughter. Lu Yuanfan slapped Lu Mingxuan's face. Lu Mingxuan's face was slapped to the side, and her face swelled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. This slap scared everyone in the room. Concubine Yun saw her daughter's swollen face and hurriedly begged, Master, even if you beat Mingxian to death, it's useless. You have to believe Mingxian. She was really wronged. I don't care if she was wronged or not. It has already happened. Useless thing, even if you were framed, you still have the nerve to come crying in front of me. Lu Yuanfan said coldly. Lu Mingxian covered her face, and her heart was as dead as ashes. She couldn't even cry. Lu Yuanfan rubbed his forehead, looking tired. In the future, stay in the courtyard. You are not allowed to run around. Otherwise, you can go to the family temple and stay there. Lu Yuanfan said coldly. From today onwards, you are no longer Lu Mingxian. Lu Yuanfan said. Lu Mingxian suddenly raised her head and looked at her father in shock. Then who am I? Fourth Miss Lu Yujing, bedridden all year round. Lu Mingxuan's face trembled, and a laugh came from her throat. It was incomparably sarcastic. Lu Yujing, I am Lu Yujing. Lu Mingxian got up from the ground, turned around, and walked out of the hall step by step. Lu Mingxuan's back was filled with despair. Every step seemed to use up all her strength. All of you, scram back to your own courtyards. You'll feel uncomfortable if you don't cause some trouble every day. Scram. Ning Shu turned around and left the hall, crestfallen. He looked back and saw Lu Juning and Chen Yichen walking unhurriedly between the pavilions. They were a match made in heaven. Ning Shu pursed his lips and followed concubine Lu to her courtyard. Back in the room, Ning Shu whispered to concubine Lu, "Put away all your assets. Hide them if you can." "What's going on?" Concubine Lu couldn't help but ask, "Why are you packing up?" Ning Shu said, "I'm not asking you to pack up, but to put away all the valuable things. I have a bad feeling in my heart." According to the plot, the Lu family would probably fall. Concubine Lu's expression changed unpredictably. Once something happened, the ants under the tree would be the first to sense it. Concubine Lu also felt that the Lu family was running to the edge of the cliff. People's hearts were scattered, and things kept happening in the family. "Yueyun, if something really happens, what should we do?" Concubine Lu was panicking. Ning Shu comforted concubine Lu. "It's okay. I will protect you. If something really happened to the Lu family, the women in the family might be demoted to slaves or prostitutes." Ning Shu couldn't help but rub his forehead. "I know. I will put away the things." Concubine Lu couldn't help but grab Ning Shu's hand. "It should be okay." Ning Shu patted concubine Lu's hand. "This is just in case." Ning Shu bit his lip. No one would be safe under the circumstances. Their bodies were engraved with the word Lu, and their fate in this life was closely related to the Lu family. Okay. Concubine Lu began to tidy up her more expensive jewelry. "Don't make it too obvious. Others will notice," Ning Shu said. Concubine Lu's voice trembled as she nodded. Ning Shu walked out of concubine Lu's courtyard and saw Lu Juning and Chen Yichen in the pavilion. The two of them sat opposite each other, talking about something. Chen Yichen turned his head and met Ning Shu's eyes. Ning Shu didn't dodge. He bowed and left. Chen Yichen retracted his gaze and said to Lu Juning, "That is also your sister." Lu Juning looked at Ning Shu's back and nodded. "She is the third child and is concubine Lu's daughter. She is a concubine's daughter. You should be careful of her. After so many things have happened, she can't be underestimated. Be careful not to lose to her." Chen Yichen warned Lu Juning. Lu Juning picked up the teacup and took a sip, then slowly put it down. Her movements were light and elegant. She said lightly, "She is like this. She is afraid of getting into trouble. She will lean on whoever is in power. Lu Juning, your life in the Lu family is so tiring. Why don't you marry into the Wang family? It will definitely be easier than now," Chen Yichen said. Lu Juning's slender eyelashes drooped slightly, covering her eyes. She said coldly, "No, I still have things to do in the Lu family." Chen Yichen wasn't disappointed. After all, he had been rejected by Lu Juning more than once. "If there is anything you can rely on me. I can solve your problems for you." Chen Yichen looked at Lu Juning with sincere eyes. Lu Juning was stunned. In her previous life, she had painstakingly planned for Shen Hao. Shen Hao had only said that it was good to have her, but he had never given her anything to rely on. Now, a man wanted her to rely on him wholeheartedly and protect him. But Lu Juning no longer believed him. Chen Yichen frowned. What had the woman in front of him experienced? She was so tired and like a hedgehog. The road to pursuing a wife was difficult. Ning Shu passed by Lu Mingxuan's courtyard and heard the heart-wrenching screams inside. Her voice was hoarse and full of tears. Ning Shu hammered his chest and couldn't help but look up at the sky. Locked in this small courtyard, his eyes could only linger on some superficial matters. All of the love and hatred fermented under the eaves, constantly fermenting, becoming more and more intense, more and more dirty. Ning Shu returned to his own courtyard and sat down on a chair, propping up his forehead as he thought about things. Yuan Xiang poured tea for Ning Shu. Ning Shu picked up the teacup and gulped down the water. Mississippi, Yuan Xiang called out to Ning Shu. What should we do about this? Ning Shu shook his head. We can't do anything about it. I reckon that father will have to negotiate with the Marquis' estate. Ning Shu hadn't expected that Lu Yujing would marry into the Marquis' estate. It really was a headache. The Lu family couldn't be destroyed by Lu Juning. Lu Juning didn't care. In any case, she had a man to protect her and leave. But she and concubine Lu would be demoted to slaves, and they might have to work for the rest of their lives. Chapter 13-15. Her life in the Lu family wasn't good, but if she was banished by the imperial court, that would be hell on earth. Lu Juning, Ning Shu clenched her fists. No matter what, she had to give it a shot. A woman without a family or clan to protect her would have a hard time in this era. Ning Shu wanted to leave the Lu family directly, but what would that mean? Lu Mingxian was locked up tightly by Lu Yuanfan. She wasn't allowed to step out of the courtyard. If she didn't listen, she would be sent to the family temple. The current Lu Mingxian had no value at all. The daughter that was raised with care and treated as the daughter of the first wife had no value at all. Now, she had become a piece of trash. She even married off a 10-year-old daughter. From now on, the Lu family would be laughed at and become the joke of the world. No matter how concubine Yun pleaded, Lu Yuanfan wouldn't agree. He didn't even want to see concubine Yun. He had a lot of things to worry about. In the imperial court, there was also the competition between political opponents. How could he have time to care about a daughter who had lost her value? Concubine Yun could only kneel in front of the study again and again, begging Lu Yuanfan. In the end, Lu Yuanfan was so angry that he grounded her and told her to stay in the courtyard and not come out. Both mother and daughter were grounded. When Ning Shu saw the fate of the mother and daughter, she felt sad. Maybe the next one would be her and concubine Lu. To be able to sully Lu Yuan's innocence, it meant that Lu Juning hated her. If she didn't deal with her now, she would probably deal with her in the future. Ning Shu put down the embroidery. She wasn't in the mood to embroider now. Miss, fourth miss has returned. Yuan Xiang walked into the room and told Ning Shu. What fourth miss? It's eldest miss. Ning Shu said lightly. Yuan Xiang quickly patted her mouth. Nubi was wrong. It's eldest miss who has returned. It's already been a few days. Why would she return? Ning Shu went to the front hall and saw Li Yu bringing Lu Yujing, who was only as tall as his armpit, to meet his father-in-law. Li Yu's expression wasn't good. Lu Yujing, on the other hand, appeared to be very happy. She was wearing colorful clothes and her hair was combed into a woman's bun. Her head was full of pearls and jade. She was clearly a child, but she was dressed so maturely. Lu Yujing happily bowed to Lu Juning. Greetings to big sister. Lu Juning smiled and nodded. Li Yu and Lu Yuanfan went to the study to talk. Since you're back, let's take a good look around. I'll get someone to prepare some food, Lu Juning said. Thank you, big sister. Lu Yujing said gratefully. Lu Yujing turned around, the pearl hairpin in her hair making a crisp sound. Ning Shu felt that Lu Yujing was like a jewelry showcase. She was full of good stuff. Third sister. Lu Yujing called out to Ning Shu. If Lu Yujing's status was different, Ning Shu would have to greet Lu Yujing. Greetings to young Madam Li, third sister is laughing at me. Lu Yujing covered her mouth and laughed, but she didn't let Ning Shu get up. No, Ning Shu said indifferently. Third sister, quickly get up, Lu Yujing said. Ning Shu stood up straight, looked at Lu Yujing and asked, why are you the one marrying Li Yu? Third sister, can't I marry Li Yu? Lu Yujing asked back. Ning Shu said, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that you're so young. How can you get married? And she was replacing her own sister. Did she take everyone else for fools? Third sister, my husband is very good to me. He said that I'm young and doesn't sleep with me. Ning Shu, that was because Li Yu didn't sleep with women at all. For a lifetime of happiness, I have to take a risk, Lu Yujing said. Ning Shu, but he's your sister's husband? Ning Shu said in disbelief. Big sister and Li Yu aren't married. So he's not her husband. Lu Yujing bit her lip. Does third sister think that I'm not worthy of marrying Li Yu just because I'm a concubine's daughter? Just because my mother died in childbirth and I didn't have a mother to protect me? Ning Shu frowned. Who said she wasn't worthy? Lu Yujing was too sensitive. I don't think so. Lu Yujing took 2 steps closer to Ning Shu. Ning Shu smelled the scent of perfume on Lu Yujing. It seemed that her clothes had been perfumed with perfume, which was why they smelled so good. I know that third sister has always looked down on me. We're both concubines' daughters, both of us are father's daughters. But you have more things than me because your mother is still alive. We're both concubines' daughters. Why do you have more than me? Ning Shu, what are you comparing with me for? Then why don't you compare with Lu Mingxian? Why don't you compare with Lu Juning? The difference is too great. If you can't compare, then compare with me. Lu Yujing, I haven't done anything wrong to you. Ning Shu was baffled. Lu Yujing's expression was a bit ugly. Yes, I can't compare with big sister and second sister. But why? You and I are both concubines' daughters. I don't have anything you have. My monthly allowance is stolen by that evil servant, but third sister, you can get your monthly allowance on time every month. Ning Shu became even colder. It's not like I'm the one who stole your monthly allowance. Fuck, these people were all abnormal. How could she be blamed for this kind of thing? What the hell? Third sister, you don't know how important a monthly allowance is to me. And you have pastries and ink to write with. We're both concubines' daughters, so why do I have to live so pitifully? Lu Yujing seemed to want to vent the anger in her heart. With this kind of opportunity, I definitely won't give it up. I don't want to live like this in the Lu estate anymore. Ning Shu said lightly, I wish you happiness. Ning Shu turned and left. Without pastries, she wouldn't starve to death. Without the pearl hairpin, she could live. If she wanted to climb up, she would climb up at night. What was the point of finding so many excuses? Lu Yujing stood in front of Ning Shu and raised her head to look at Ning Shu. Her face was covered with makeup. She was young and looked a bit strange. Lu Yujing took out a silver ingot and said, this silver is to thank third sister for taking care of me during this time. It also gave me the ink, brush, paper, and ink stone. Ning Shu looked at the silver ingot in Lu Yujing's hand. Lu Yujing's eyes were nervous and happy. It seemed like she had never done such a thing before. Her actions were a bit stiff. Ning Shu found it extremely funny. So she had struck it rich and was throwing money around. She wanted to use this method to fill the cowardice in her heart. Third sister, take it. Lu Yujing stretched out her hand. In her palm was the silver ingot. The weight of this silver ingot was not light. Ning Shu couldn't help but smile. You don't need to give me the silver ingot. You're already married. It's best if you have some silver on you. Fourth sister, I wish you happiness. Haha, Ning Shu walked around Lu Yujing and left. So Lu Yujing had always thought this way. Perhaps in the process of interacting with her, her heart was different from what she showed. Chapter 13:16. She was timid, sensitive, and pitiful. If she behaved inappropriately, Lu Yujing would probably resent her in her heart and say that she looked down on her. She wouldn't say anything and just keep it in her heart. Lu Yujing fawned over Lu Juning just to get this chance to change her fate. Li Yu was a person who liked men and had no interest in women at all. Marrying a wife was just to make himself look like a normal person, and at the same time, to cover up some of his hobbies. Everyone thought that Li Yu was a good man. Ning Shu didn't intend to say anything. Did she want her to say that her husband was gay? Lu Yujing wouldn't believe her even if she said it. Instead, she would resent her and think that she was jealous. Ning Shu didn't take Lu Yujing's money, which made Lu Yujing's expression a little ugly. In the past, Lu Yueyun gave her things as if they were beggars. Now, she could give Lu Yueyun things. It seemed that this could turn the tables. Lu Yujing took back the money with some resentment. The more she thought about it, the more sullen she felt. She stared at Ning Shu's back. Mississippi, Yuan Xiang and Ning Shu called in a low voice. Ning Shu stopped and asked, "What's wrong?" "Miss, don't be too sad." Now, the fourth. "Eldest miss is different from the past," Yuan Xiang said. "I'm not sad." Who knew what Lu Yujing's life would be like in the future? A lifetime was very long, and it was enough to torture people's hearts. Besides, this was human nature. Adoration from afar, envy from near, adoration from out of reach, envy from within reach. Adoration without conflict of interest, envy with conflict of interest. Ning Shu didn't know that Lu Yujing had always been jealous of her. Lu Yujing wasn't jealous of Lu Mingxian and Lu Juning because the gap between them was too big. They were both illegitimate daughters, but Lu Yujing compared herself to her. Therefore, people should go out and walk around more. Being locked in this small space all the time, people would become perverted. Li Yu stayed for lunch. Ning Shu also attended, but she was an illegitimate daughter, so her seat was a little further back. Lu Mingxian and concubine Yun were still grounded and didn't come to eat. Lu Yujing and Li Yu sat together. They didn't look like husband and wife, but like siblings with a big age gap. Chen Yichen shamelessly sat with Lu Juning. Sitting at the head of the table, Lu Yuanfan's expression was not very good. No one knew what he was talking about with Li Yu. However, the Lu family was in the wrong in this matter, so they had to make some compensations and sacrifices to suppress this matter. At the dinner table, Chen Yichen picked up food for Lu Juning from time to time, which made Lu Yujing very envious. She said, "Prince Chen, you are so kind to my second sister. Am I not good to you?" Li Yu placed some food on Lu Yujing's plate. Lu Yujing immediately blushed and charmingly said, "Thank you, husband." Ning Shu, who was single, was speechless. Ning Shu almost choked. They were showing off their love in public. Ning Shu looked at Li Yu. This man had hidden himself very well. Almost no one knew of his eccentricities. As the successor of the Marquis's residence, he was outstanding and was a man worth entrusting. Ha ha ha. While they were eating, Lu Mingxian knew that Lu Yujing had come back, so she secretly ran out of the yard and went to the front hall. Seeing Lu Yujing sitting next to Li Yu in a luxurious dress, Lu Mingxian hated her to death. This bitch had stolen her husband. Lu Mingxian rushed into the room, rushed to Lu Yujing's side, and reached out to strangle Lu Yujing. "You bitch, I'm going to kill you." Lu Mingxian strangled Lu Yujing tightly. Lu Yujing's face turned red and she looked frightened. She was pressed on the table, with soup under her in the bowl and chopsticks on her back. Lu Yujing's eyes were full of Lu Mingxuan's ferocious face and poisonous eyes, staring at her gloomily and terrifyingly. She couldn't even cry for help. "What are you doing? Are you turning the world upside down?" Lu Yuanfan's face darkened when he saw Lu Mingxian come out. Everyone went to pull Lu Mingxian away, fearing that she would really die. But even if Lu Mingxian was pulled away, she would still strangle Lu Yujing's neck with all her might, refusing to let go. Lu Yujing's face started to turn green. Li Yu didn't want to marry another wife. One more wife meant one more risk of exposing his fetishes. Li Yu grabbed Lu Mingxuan's arm and pulled with all his strength. With a crack, Lu Mingxuan's arm was dislocated. Cough, cough, cough. Lu Yujing fell to the ground, gasping for breath with a painful expression. Li Yu, how can you do this to me? Lu Mingxuan's arm hung limply, looking at Li Yu angrily. Li Yu helped Lu Yujing up and said coldly, I don't know you. Lu Mingxian was stunned, as if struck by lightning. Don't know me? What did you say? Lu Mingxian asked with a trembling voice. Although she was unwilling to marry Li Yu, she had no choice but to marry him. She didn't expect Li Yu to treat her like this. Xian Su, this is the family's fourth child. She has been sick and her mind is a bit unclear. Lu Yuanfan said to Li Yu. He waved his hand and hurriedly had the servants drag Lu Mingxian away. I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Lu Mingxian was dragged away by the servants. She gloomily stared at everyone present. Especially Lu Juning and Lu Yujing. Lu Yujing, you damned woman. Don't think that you can marry Li Yu just because you defecated Lu Juning's servant girl. You even ate Lu Juning's shit, you disgusting woman. I'll open my eyes and see how happy you can be. Lu Mingxuan's voice echoed mournfully. It was filled with madness and hatred, causing people's hair to stand on end. Li Yu frowned. He felt that Lu Mingxuan's words were disgusting. Defecating servant girl and eating shit, he was speechless. Even his impression of Lu Yujing was not very good. Li Yu didn't care who his wife was. He just needed a wife. Ning Shu saw the disdain between Li Yu's eyebrows and immediately curled his lips. He was already a troublemaker, yet he still despised others. With Lu Mingxuan's disturbance, the previously pretended harmonious atmosphere was broken. Li Yu said goodbye to Lu Yuanfan and left the Lu mansion with Lu Yujing. When they left, Ning Shu saw that Lu Yujing's face was filled with happiness. Obviously, Li Yu's protection just now made her feel very happy. Ning Shu couldn't help but shake his head. Some things were illusory. The things that she obtained through scheming weren't so beautiful. Naturally, the meal couldn't be eaten. Lu Yuanfan's face darkened as he flung his sleeves and left. Lu Juning and Chen Yichen's expressions were calm, as if nothing had happened. This couple, Ning Shu bowed and left, wondering what price Lu Yuanfan had paid to keep the Marquis's mansion from causing trouble. She didn't have much of a presence in the Lu family, so she wasn't qualified to know these things. But even if she thought with her toes, the Marquis's mansion must have received some benefits. Lu Yuanfan had gotten a shield for nothing, and he had also received some benefits. How much did Lu Juning hate the Lu family? He was thinking of ways to deal with them. Chapter 13-17. What Lu Juning was doing was harming others without benefiting herself. No, as long as the Lu family suffered losses, it would be beneficial to Lu Juning. Lu Juning did not need her maiden family at all. She relied on the great general's residence. Thus, the Lu family could go to hell. Lu Juning wanted to destroy the Lu family. She had to hold on to the Lu family. Ning Shu drank the tea to dispel grease. In order to resolve the crisis, he had to throw away the explosives. Miss, why does eldest young master say that he doesn't know eldest young miss? Yuan Xiang asked puzzledly. They were engaged and there was even skin-to-skin contact. How could he say that he didn't know her? Ning Shu said indifferently, he's blind. Even if he's blind, he can still feel it. Ning Shu stared at Yuan Xiang with a strange expression. He can even feel it. Yuan Xiang was somewhat baffled. Eldest young miss and fourth young miss are very different in height. How can he not tell? Fourth young miss was still a child. Blind, deaf, and blind. It doesn't matter who is who. Ning Shu shrugged. In any case, fourth young miss has married into the Marquis's residence. What's done is done. It's just that eldest young miss. Yuan Xiang's eyes revealed sympathy. I don't know what kind of family eldest young miss will marry into. Ning Shu rolled her eyes when she saw the longing expression on Yuan Xiang's face. Ning Shu felt that it was a pity. Lu Mingxian was too impulsive. If she had been more prepared, she would have taken a knife and chopped Li Yu directly. You're not trying to snatch my man, but I'm going to kill him. What are you trying to snatch from me for? If the man accidentally dies, you'll be a widow for the rest of your life. If you accidentally paralyze the man, you'll be a cripple for the rest of your life. If you accidentally disfigure the man, you'll be an ugly woman for the rest of your life. What was the use of strangling a woman to death? Strangling her to death would not affect Li Yu at all. Li Yu could always remarry. Killing a man would definitely cause a woman great pain. Ning Shu felt that if he were Lu Mingxian, he would definitely drag Li Yu to the Yellow Springs when he was sad and desperate. How nice would it be to have a scapegoat? He could even let the living die in pain. In the middle of the night, the surroundings were quiet. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the bed. He got off the bed, opened the wardrobe, and took out his night clothes. Ning Shu put on his night suit and covered his face. Even his head was covered, leaving only his eyes exposed. He even wrapped his shoes with a cloth. This way, he wouldn't leave any footprints, and the sound of his footsteps would be quieter. Ning Shu's clothes had been secretly sewn by himself. Once he became proficient in needlework, clothes were a piece of cake. No matter how difficult it was not as difficult as embroidery. After putting on his night suit, Ning Shu left the room and headed for Lu Yuanfan's study. The sky was very dark, and there was only a half-hidden moon in the sky. Not a single ray of moonlight shone down. Ning Shu shuttled through the Lu clan and arrived at Lu Yuanfan's study. He gently opened the door and heard a soft creak. Ning Shu tiptoed into the study and began to look for something. Every official's butt was not clean. As the Minister of War, Lu Yuanfan held great power in the military. All the military provisions had to go through his hands. It would be strange if his butt was clean. Lu Juning found evidence that Lu Yuanfan was buying and selling official titles, embezzling military provisions, and secretly hiding weapons. He suspected that he was going to rebel. Lu Yuanfan had placed these account books in his home, and Lu Juning found out. Lu Juning presented this evidence to the emperor. As the emperor, he could tolerate the greed of his subordinates. When the water was too clear, there would be no fish. But rebellion was absolutely intolerable. Lu Yuanfan's actions made it seem like he was going to rebel. He would rather kill the wrong person than let him go. So Lu Yuanfan was beheaded, and the Lu clan dispersed. At this point, the Lu clan had completely collapsed. Ning Shu wanted to find that book now. He felt that there was something wrong with it. Accepting bribes was one thing, but it also had to be written down. It was purposely to let people have something against him. Even if he wanted to write it down, he had to remember it in his heart. Who could dig out the things in his heart? Ning Shu turned the antique vase on the shelf. There was no mechanism. Ning Shu also searched the bookshelf. She took out a lighter, but she did not dare to light it. She was afraid that someone would find it. The book should not be placed on the bookshelf so casually. Ning Shu touched Lu Yuanfan's desk and chair to see if there was any mechanism. She touched the chair and the table. She only knew that these account books were found in Lu Yuanfan's study. But Ning Shu did not know where in the study it was. She must find the book before Lu Juning. She could not let the Lu clan collapse like this. She could not benefit much from the Lu clan's good fortune. But if the Lu clan collapsed, she would be a very unlucky person. As Lu Yuanfan's daughter, she did not know what would happen to her. She did not find any mechanism on the chair or the desk. Ning Shu had no choice but to lie on the ground. She used her fingers to knock on the floor tiles one by one to see if there was any mechanism on the ground. Finally, in a corner behind the door, there was a floor tile. It was hollow. When she knocked on it, there was a rustling sound. Ning Shu's heart skipped a beat. This should be some kind of mechanism. Ning Shu took out a knife and cut along the cracks in the floor tile. Finally, she lifted the floor tile up. Ning Shu reached out and touched the hole. She found the book. Ning Shu stuffed the book into her arms and then put the floor tile back in place. After doing all this, Ning Shu was about to leave. Just as she stood up, the door creaked. Ning Shu, who was standing behind the door, was speechless. Another person, who was also wearing night clothes, came in. Ning Shu held her breath. She did not make a move. Like Ning Shu, this person entered the study and touched everywhere. Ning Shu slipped out of the study like a gust of wind. She took out a fire starter and threw it into the room. The fire starter landed on the curtain. Then, Ning Shu quickly closed the door to the study and used a wooden stick to string the two door knockers together. It would not be easy to open from the inside. Father Lu, I'll teach you a lesson. Look at how you put all the important things in the study. It's safer to put them in the toilet than in the study. Ning Shu clutched the book in her chest and quickly ran back to her room. When she returned to her room, Ning Shu quickly took off her night clothes and hid them. She lay on the bed in her underwear. It's on fire. It's on fire. A panicked voice rang out in the silent night. Then, the entire Lu residence became restless. Yuan Xiang, who had just put on her clothes, ran into Ning Shu's room and shook Ning Shu. "Miss, wake up. It's on fire." Ning Shu opened her eyes and asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" "It's on fire." "Where is it on fire?" Ning Shu quickly lifted the blanket. Yuan Xiang put on the clothes for Ning Shu. Just as Ning Shu was putting on her clothes, Lu Juning burst in. "Second sister." Ning Shu stared at Lu Juning in shock. Ning Shu was really puzzled. Did Lu Juning know that the book was in her hands? Chapter 13:18. When Lu Juning came in, her expression was solemn. She looked around the room and her gaze stopped on Ning Shu's face. Ning Shu was confused and asked, "Second sister, there's a fire. Why did he come here instead of putting out the fire? Was there something wrong with him?" Lu Juning flicked her sleeves. Her wide sleeves swung gently, looking elegant and beautiful. "The arsonist is coming this way. Someone broke into the Lu residence. I brought people to take a look." Lu Juning's gaze was fixed on Ning Shu. "Did you see anyone wearing night clothes?" Ning Shu quickly shook his head. "I didn't see anyone." "Did you see anyone?" Ning Shu Yuan Xiang asked. Yuan Xiang looked scared. "No." Ning Shu looked around and quickly walked to Lu Juning's side. "Second sister, is there really an assassin?" Lu Juning looked at Ning Shu. "That's why we need to search your room to see if the assassin is hiding here." Ning Shu nodded. "Second sister, quickly search." Ning Shu's face was full of fear and apprehension. Lu Juning let the servants search. Under the bed, under the bedding, everything was searched. The room was turned into a mess. Lu Juning saw that nothing was found and frowned. Ning Shu carefully said, "Eldest sister, the assassin isn't here, right? You stay in the room. Father's study is on fire." Lu Juning's expression was puzzled. She looked at Ning Shu with suspicion and turned to leave the room. Ning Shu bowed to Lu Juning and watched her leave until Lu Juning left the courtyard. How did Lu Juning know that someone was coming in this direction? Did someone see her? Ning Shu Yuan Xiang said, tidy up the room. I'll go out and take a look. Yes. The study was ablaze and thick smoke billowed. The servants were carrying buckets of water and the maids were splashing water. They looked very hurried. Hurry up, hurry up. Lu Yuanfan said anxiously. He wanted to rush in several times, but the fire was too big. Lu Yuanfan shouted irritably, hurry up, what are you doing? Ning Shu watched from afar and didn't approach Lu Yuanfan. If he went over now, he might become a punching bag for Lu Yuanfan. The study was on fire. Lu Yuanfan should have realized that his things were not safe. Lu Juning and Chen Yichen stood together, and the firelight reflected on their faces. The two of them seemed to be talking about something. Ning Shu felt that they were looking at him. Chen Yichen asked, did you find anything? Lu Juning shook his head. No, we didn't find the man in black, nor did we find anything. Chen Yichen glanced at Ning Shu. I didn't search her. She might be the assassin. At that time, I vaguely saw that the assassin was short and very different from a man's build. It shouldn't be her. Lu Yueyun shouldn't be a martial artist, and she wouldn't have the guts to set a fire. Lu Juning shook his head. Make bold guesses and be careful to verify them. Maybe what you think is impossible is possible, Chen Yichen said. Among your father's children, you and she are the only ones who haven't had an accident. Also, the incident at Tiantai Temple last time might have been her doing. You and Lu Mingxian both had an accident, but she was fine, Chen Yichen said. Lu Juning looked at Ning Shu standing there with some doubts in his heart. Could it be that Lu Mingxian was also reborn? Since she was reborn, why was she indifferent when her husband married someone else? When Li Yu wanted to marry Lu Mingxian, Lu Yueyun didn't feel anything. When Li Yu married Lu Yujing, she still didn't feel anything. If she was reborn, it shouldn't be like this. Whether it was love or hate, there should be a lot of emotional fluctuations. Just like when she saw the third prince, Shen Hao, she couldn't control her inner resentment. When she saw Shen Hao's face, she wanted to kill him. She wanted to cut him into pieces and let him have a taste of the pain she had suffered. But Lu Yueyun didn't seem to have any feelings for Li Yu. She was cold and distant. Lu Juning shook his head. Lu Yueyun shouldn't have been reborn. Chen Yichen looked at Lu Juning and shook his head. He asked, what are you thinking about? Nothing. I'm just wondering why the other party set the fire. Lu Juning looked at the anxious Lu Yuanfan. It's probably to divert attention. After almost an hour of fighting the fire was controlled and slowly extinguished. Lu Yuanfan's study was already black, and the wood was smoking. Lu Yuanfan rushed in and pushed open the dark wooden door. He moved the floor tiles behind the door and found that the thing was gone. Lu Yuanfan suddenly froze, and his face turned pale. The thing was yours, but where did it go? Lu Yuanfan shivered. If that thing fell into the hands of outsiders, the dozens of people in the Lu family would be in trouble. The Lu family would really be ruined. Find out who set the fire for me. Lu Yuanfan came out of the study, covered in black ash, and roared loudly. His face was extremely pale. Ning Shu lowered his head and didn't speak, letting Lu Yuanfan go crazy. Third sister, if you see anyone strange, remember to tell me and father, Lu Juning said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded. I know, second sister. I'm going back to my room. Lu Juning nodded. If there's anything, remember to tell me. Ning Shu bowed and turned to leave. I will send someone to keep an eye on her. If the thing is really on her, we will definitely be able to get it, Chen Yichen said. Lu Juning turned to look at Chen Yichen. You don't have to do these things for me. This is my business, and it has nothing to do with you. Don't think that I will be grateful if you do these things for me. Chen Yichen frowned. What I am willing to do for you is my own business, and it has nothing to do with you. I am willing to do it for you, and whether you accept it or not is your business. Lu Juning didn't know what to say, so she simply left. Ning Shu returned to his room. Yuan Xiang had already tidied up the room. Yuan Xiang and Ning Shu asked, "Miss, how is it?" Ning Shu sat down and drank tea. The fire has been put out, but the study was burned beyond recognition. Master will be angry now. Lu Yuanfan had a bad temper, and he might hit someone when he was angry. Ning Shu said, "You should also go and rest. It will be a while before dawn. I'd better stay with you, Mississippi. I heard that there were assassins in the mansion. I am afraid that something will happen to Miss," Yuan Xiang said. "You are the one who is afraid." Mississippi, Ning Shu asked Yuan Xiang to stay with him. The things on her must be destroyed. If she kept them on her, she might be exposed at any time. Ning Shu felt that he had little chance of winning against Lu Juning, so he could only secretly calculate. Behind Lu Juning stood the general's mansion, and now there was Prince Chen, who was a member of the royal family. Damn it! Chapter 13-19. Ning Shu lay on the bed and stared at the top of the bed. So now she still had to confront Lu Juning. Lu Juning wanted to destroy the Lu family. She had to protect the Lu family just to have a place to settle down. If Lu Yuanfan's rebellion was successful, he would probably face the execution of the whole family. This body was Lu Yuanfan's daughter, a direct relative, and she would probably be beheaded. If she couldn't even survive, how could she talk about a counterattack? Ning Shu turned over and stared at Yuan Xiang, who was drooling while sleeping on the recliner. She had to find an ally. It was too difficult to be alone. The power gap was too big. But who should she cooperate with? Lu Yuanfan, Lu Mingxian. Ning Shu covered her head with her hands. She felt that Lu Juning suspected her. Ning Shu couldn't think of a way. She was thinking of a way to confront Lu Juning. The task of the original Lu Yueyun was to not marry Li Yu and not be defiled. But there were no eggs left intact. She went to the family temple early and spent the rest of her life in the family temple. The Lu family also collapsed. Even if she escaped the fate of being defiled, the Lu family faced the fate of collapse, and it didn't end well. Ning Shu wanted to poison Lu Juning directly. She might as well poison Lu Juning to death. It was a little difficult to implement. There were secret guards around her and Chen Yichen. Chen Yichen would probably send someone to monitor her. She suspected that something was on her. Ning Shu's daily life was still embroidery. It was very normal. But Ning Shu felt that someone was watching her. More than one pair of eyes were staring at her. Sure enough, someone was watching her. Ning Shu pretended not to know anything. Ning Shu threw the booklet directly into the basin, and the pages were gradually soaked by the water. The handwriting on the page was also blurred. The clear handwriting was a mess, and it was impossible to see what it was. Ning Shu was very bored and tore the paper into pieces, and then tore it into small pieces one by one. It became a pot of paste. Even if Lu Juning had great ability, there was no way to restore it. If that was the case, Ning Shu would immediately kneel down in front of her. "Miss, what are you doing?" Yuan Xiang entered the room and saw that the basin was filled with piles of paper paste. She was somewhat speechless as she asked. "It's just too boring." Ning Shu wiped the water off his hands, picked up the copper basin, and poured the water into the wash basin. Yuan Xiang shrugged her shoulders. Miss was really too bored. After dealing with the booklet, Ning Shu felt relieved. After all, the Lu family's crisis was temporarily gone. He just didn't know if Lu Juning would think of other ways to deal with the Lu family. At the very least, the matter of Lu Yuanfan rebelling had been resolved. After all, they couldn't accuse Lu Yuanfan of rebelling without any evidence. Lu Yuanfan was a second-rank official after all. Ning Shu didn't want to tell Lu Yuanfan about the book. He wanted him to go there in a hurry and be on tenterhooks. When his life was in danger, Lu Yuanfan would suspect everyone around him. Ning Shu hoped that Lu Yuanfan would suspect Lu Juning. Ning Shu stretched lazily and said to Yuan Xiang, "Today's weather is really good. Let's go out for a walk." Ning Shu left the courtyard and walked around the garden. If not, he would feed the fishes. Ning Shu felt that someone was following him, but he didn't care and continued to stroll around. He walked to the outside of Lu Mingxuan's courtyard. Lu Mingxuan's courtyard was now deserted. Not a single person came to visit the previously glorious Mississippi. Ning Shu said, "They're all outside Big Sister's courtyard. Let's go in and take a look." Yuan Xiang hurriedly said, "Miss, it's better not to go. Big Miss is too scary." When the fourth Miss returned home and strangled Lu Yujing, her crazy and vicious look made people shudder with fear. Ning Shu pushed open the courtyard door. "It's fine." Lu Yujing's courtyard was overgrown with weeds. Fallen leaves were scattered all over the ground. It looked a little desolate. "Miss, let's go back," Yuan Xiang said cautiously. The door was open. Ning Shu walked into the room and saw Lu Mingxian embroidering. "Big sister," Ning Shu called out to her. Lu Mingxian raised her head and glanced at Ning Shu. Then she lowered her head and continued to embroider. "It's hard for people to come to my courtyard," Lu Mingxian said sarcastically. Ning Shu sat down across from Lu Mingxian. Lu Mingxian had lost a lot of weight. Her chin was sharp and her expression was haggard. She looked so thin that she was out of shape. "Why are you looking for me? Are you here to laugh at me?" Lu Mingxian said without raising her head. Ning Shu sighed and said, "I'm not here to laugh at Big Sister. Big Sister just needs to apologize to Father and admit your mistakes. Then you can leave. Why are you so stubborn?" Lu Mingxian slammed the embroidery in her hands on the table. "I didn't do anything wrong. I was wrongly accused." Ning Shu spread out her hands. "But things have already happened. You can't go back in time. If you insist on an explanation, you will only make Father even more disappointed in you. Apologize to Father properly." She had indeed lost her chastity. She had indeed been married off. These things had already happened. It wasn't something that could be redeemed with an explanation. "What do you know? These things didn't happen to you. Of course you can speak without feeling any pain," Lu Mingxian said hatefully. Ning Shu stood up. "I was meddlesome. Little sister, I'll take my leave now." Ning Shu left the courtyard. She didn't care about Lu Mingxian. If Lu Mingxian could really pull herself together, it would be good if she could annoy Lu Juning. Someone who could become empress in her previous life definitely had some tricks up her sleeves. It was just that she was still young and hadn't turned around yet. Ning Shu continued to stroll around. She saw that Lu Yuanfan's study was being renovated. A fire had burned almost everything in the study. Lu Yuanfan's old face was gloomy the entire time. He wanted to stab everyone he saw. His gaze was malicious. Anyone who stared at him would feel as though they had taken something of his. Ning Shu braced himself and bowed to Lu Yuanfan. "Father. What are you doing? Stay in your room." Lu Yuanfan's expression was unpleasant. Ning Shu's expression was timid. He said repeatedly, "Father, don't be angry. Has the assassin been caught yet?" "Caught what?" "He's long gone," Lu Yuanfan said through clenched teeth. His tone was irritable, and his face was filled with worry. The whereabouts of the assassin were unknown. Ning Shu comforted him. "Father, it's fine. Second sister is searching for the assassin. If there's any news, second sister will definitely tell you. Father, did you lose something? Second sister is also looking for something. Ning Shu asked. Something? What something? What is your second sister looking for? Lu Yuanfan's expression changed. What did your second sister say? Ning Shu's expression was a bit blank. I'm asking you, what is your second sister looking for? Lu Yuanfan asked anxiously. Ning Shu shook his head. I don't know. Lu Yuanfan waved his hand. Ning Shu said, scram back to your own courtyard. Don't run around if there's nothing important. Oh. Ning Shu's expression was very aggrieved. He called out, Father. Chapter 1320. Lu Yuanfan wasn't a qualified father and didn't have much care for his daughter in the backyard. As the head of the family and a man, he didn't want to waste time on his daughter. Ning Shu stared at Lu Yuanfan pitifully. Lu Yuanfan was annoyed, and when he saw Ning Shu's half-dead appearance, he felt even worse. I told you to go back. Now is an eventful time, so don't bother me. Lu Yuanfan rubbed his eyebrows. Ning Shu bowed and left. She was gloating in her heart. You'll be anxious to death. After walking around outside, Ning Shu returned to her courtyard and continued to embroider. In any case, the book was destroyed, so she could breathe a sigh of relief for the time being. Miss, it's already the end of the month. After this incident, I don't know if Master will call you over for dinner. Yuan Xiang said as she poured tea for Ning Shu. The Lu family would have a gathering at the end of every month, where the whole family would gather to have a meal together. They couldn't not eat together all year round. After all, they were a family. Generally speaking, if there wasn't anything special, there was only one chance to talk to Lu Yuanfan every month. Ning Shu didn't care about the meal at all. However, when it was time for lunch, a maidservant came to inform Ning Shu to have lunch in the front hall. Lu Yuanfan was still in the mood to let the family gather together. Wouldn't he be so irritable that he would flip the table? Since father told her to go, then she would go. When it was time to eat, Ning Shu tidied up and went to the front hall. When she walked into the room, she froze for a moment because Lu Mingxian and concubine Yun had both come. Ning Shu called out, Big sister. Lu Mingxian nodded and ignored Ning Shu. Lu Mingxian came out. It seemed that she had thought it through. Ning Shu sat next to concubine Lu, silently drinking tea and not speaking. Then Lu Juning and Chen Yichen also came. To be honest, the two of them were like husband and wife, living under the same roof. Apart from a status, the two of them had done everything they could. She just didn't know if Chen Yichen would break into Lu Juning's boudoir at night and share a bed with her. Ning Shu felt that this was completely possible. After all, they had already had sex. What was the big deal about sleeping? When Lu Juning saw Lu Mingxian, she was also stunned. She immediately said, Big sister, you came out. Lu Mingxian actually smiled at Lu Juning. That's right. I was bored at home, so I came out for a walk. Lu Juning nodded. It's good to go out for a walk. It's not good to stay indoors all the time. Ning Shu looked at the two of them and felt that it was quite inconceivable. They were talking so calmly, like sisters who loved each other. Ning Shu held his teacup and sipped his tea, not interrupting their conversation. A maidservant brought up the dishes. Lu Yuanfan walked into the house, scanned the people in the house, and sat down. Let's eat. Everyone sat around the table. Lu Mingxian was the first to speak. Father, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Lu Yuanfan nodded. It's good that you know you were wrong. Don't make trouble in the future. Okay. Lu Mingxuan's voice was choked with sobs, and tears fell down her face. Thank you, father. Lu Mingxian sat down and kept wiping her tears. Concubine Yun also began to wipe her tears. She thanked him repeatedly. Thank you, master. A subtle expression flashed across Lu Juning's face, and her face became colder and colder. Ning Shu swallowed the food in his mouth. Looking at the scene of a father and a filial son, he felt strange no matter how he looked at it. Lu Yuanfan looked at Lu Juning and said, "Don't worry about the family affairs." Lu Juning frowned and asked, "Father, why? Did I do anything wrong?" Lu Juning couldn't figure out why Lu Yuanfan would remove her from the position of housekeeper. Lu Yuanfan put down his chopsticks and said lightly, "You have to prepare your dowry. I've decided to marry you to Prince Chen." Chen Yichen suddenly laughed. "Thank you." Lu Juning's expression changed, and she put her chopsticks on the table heavily. "I won't marry him." As soon as Lu Juning said this, Chen Yichen's face became a little gloomy and cold. Seeing Chen Yichen's expression, Lu Yuanfan hurriedly said, "If you don't marry him, who are you going to marry? Prince Chen has been in the Lu mansion for so long, and you go in and out together every day. If you don't marry him, who are you going to marry? Set a date." Lu Juning pursed her lips tightly and stiffened her neck, unwilling to marry. Lu Yuanfan said unquestionably, "That's it. You should also prepare your dowry. Sit down. Father, do you want to use me as a tool to consolidate your power? If you want to use Prince Chen, you have to see if I'm willing to marry him or not," Lu Juning said coldly. "It's your parents' order and the matchmaker's words. It's not up to you whether you're willing or not," Lu Yuanfan said with a sullen face, his eyes rolling over Lu Juning's face. He was a little shocked that his daughter was so rebellious. "I'm the one getting married. No one can force me to get married," Lu Juning said firmly. "It's up to you." "Anyway, the date has been set," Lu Yuanfan said with a livid face. The father and daughter quarreled, and Chen Yichen next to them was a little embarrassed. In front of so many people, Lu Juning said that she didn't want to marry him. "Concubine Lu, you take care of the family matters for the time being." Lu Yuanfan was too lazy to argue with Lu Juning. Concubine Lu lowered her head and didn't have much sense of existence. Hearing this, she raised her head in amazement and said in disbelief, "Master, what did you say? You take care of the family matters for the time being." Concubine Lu was almost stunned by the sudden pie that fell from the sky. Being stared at by so many people, she was very frightened. Concubine Lu was both excited and scared. She couldn't help but look at Ning Shu. Ning Shu shook his head without a trace. The housekeeper was not so easy to manage. If the subordinates were disobedient, there was nothing he could do. Seeing Ning Shu shake his head, Concubine Lu was a little disappointed. Seeing that Concubine Yun and Lu Juning were staring at her with very unfriendly eyes, she gave up this idea in her heart. Concubine Lu waved her hand and said to Lu Yuanfan, "Master, Bai Chia can't do it. Bai Chia has never taken care of the family and doesn't know anything about it." "Just take your time," Lu Yuanfan said. The more Lu Yuanfan said this, the more Concubine Lu felt that something was wrong. "Master, Bai Chia is stupid. Bai Chia really can't manage such a big family." Lu Yuanfan glanced at Concubine Lu and then looked at Concubine Yun. "It's up to you." "Thank you, Master. Bai Chia will definitely take care of this family." Concubine Yun immediately said happily. Her face was flushed with joy, and her eyes were full of tenderness as she looked at Lu Yuanfan. Lu Yuanfan didn't meet Concubine Yun's eyes at all. The meal ended on a bad note. Lu Juning turned and left, which made Lu Yuanfan's face ugly. He said to Chen Yichen, "Prince, you must be joking. This child's mother passed away early and is a little willful. I hope Prince can forgive her." Chapter 13:21. Chen Yichen didn't know how many times he had been rejected. Chen Yichen didn't know what was bothering Lu Juning. Hearing Lu Yuanfan's words, Chen Yichen nodded indifferently, stood up, and chased after Lu Juning. Lu Mingxian looked at Chen Yichen's back with flickering eyes. Ning Shu and concubine Lu also planned to leave, but Lu Mingxian stopped Ning Shu. Third sister. Lu Mingxian came over, took Ning Shu's arm, and said to concubine Lu with a smile, "Concubine Lu, can I talk to third sister?" Ning Shu said, "Concubine Lu, you can go back first. I'll find you later." Concubine Lu was a little worried, but she had to leave. "Big sister, what do you want to say to me?" Ning Shu asked. Lu Mingxian said with a smile, "I just want to thank you. We can get along well in the future." Ning Shu nodded. "Okay." Ning Shu looked at Lu Mingxian, who was smiling sweetly. After so many things had happened, she could still smile like this. She no longer exploded in silence, but became perverted in silence. Lu Mingxian now gave Ning Shu the feeling that Lu Mingxian was a pervert. Prince Chen is so good to second sister, but second sister doesn't seem to be satisfied. Lu Mingxian led the topic to Lu Juning. Speaking of Lu Juning's name, Lu Mingxian was not crazy and hysterical like before, but this kind of calmness was even more unsettling. Ning Shu nodded in agreement. "Yes, it seems that Prince Chen insists on second sister." Lu Mingxian raised the corner of her mouth. "Insists on her?" Lu Mingxian chatted with Ning Shu for a while and then left. Ning Shu stared at Lu Mingxuan's back. This was the purpose of Lu Mingxian. How could she only oppose Lu Juning? The more muddy the water, the better. Lu Yuanfan should have some doubts about Lu Juning. The things in the study were a thorn in Lu Yuanfan's heart. Lu Yuanfan probably suspected everyone in the family, and the most suspicious one was Lu Juning. That was why he took away her position as the housekeeper and married her to Chen Yichen. In Lu Yuanfan's heart, power was the most important thing. If someone wanted to touch his roots, he would definitely retaliate. Ning Shu went to find concubine Lu. Concubine Lu said to Ning Shu unhappily, "Why didn't you let me take over the family's authority?" Concubine mother, concubine Yun has been in charge for the longest time. Most of the people in the manor are her people. After that, it was second sister who was in charge. She was bold and decisive. No one dared to make trouble. "But mother, you have to accept that most of the people are concubine Yun and second sister's people. The manor can't move at all. It's an arduous and thankless task. Father will blame you." If he wanted to fill his own pockets, he had to have the ability. Wasn't he just trying to get some money from the steward? Concubine Lu sighed and touched Ning Shu's face. "My daughter has grown up. I don't need to worry about her in the future. I'm relieved that you're married." Ning Shu, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Ning Shu wanted to see a tripartite situation. In fact, several forces were besieging Lu Juning. Lu Yuanfan, Lu Mingxian, concubine Yun, and Ning Shu. Lu Juning's advantage was that she had Prince Chen, Chen Yichen, who was in a high position. Ning Shu was a little speechless. Instead of going to court to plead for the people, he was trapped in a woman's harem. Was he worthy of the burden on his shoulders? He was in a high position and had good food, sleep, and play. Even if he was lucky and reincarnated, he shouldn't be like this. No matter what class, ability and status were proportional. Ning Shu supported his chin. He had to find a way to deal with Lu Juning. Lu Juning relied on the general's mansion and the loyal Chen Yichen. She couldn't deal with the general's mansion or Chen Yichen. Chen Yichen guarded here every day and didn't leave. It made her speechless. She was surrounded by people sent by him. How long would he keep monitoring her? It made it difficult for her to do anything. He used these forces to bully a woman in his harem. How could he not be ashamed? Ning Shu could only suppress the impatience in his heart. He should do what he should do. You want the booklet? Huh, the booklet is gone. Ning Shu hummed a tune while embroidering. Miss, something happened again. Ning Shu was speechless. She didn't like to listen to Yuan Xiang now. She always said, Miss, something happened. Ning Shu put down the embroidery, picked up the teacup, and asked slowly, what is it this time? Mississippi, Yuan Xiang whispered in Ning Shu's ear, First Miss and Prince Chen had intimate contact. They are in the hall now. Ning Shu picked her ear. What did you say? I mean. Yuan Xiang said loudly, First Miss and Prince Chen. Pfft. Ning Shu almost choked on her saliva. What's going on? I don't know the details. It seems that Prince Chen and First Miss were in the wing room and were found by Master. Ning Shu felt helpless. Why couldn't she keep up with the pace? Lu Mingxian had sex with Chenny Chen again. Ning Shu hurried to the hall and saw Lu Mingxian kneeling on the ground and Chenny Chen standing aside with a livid face. Lu Juning also had a look of disbelief on her face, as if she had been betrayed. Lu Yuanfan's expression was indescribable. Ning Shu couldn't help but sympathize with him. Ning Shu quietly walked in and stood at the foot of the wall, so as not to be swept. Master, you have to uphold justice for Mingxian. Mingxuan's chastity is gone, concubine Yun cried. Chastity? She has been chastity for a long time. How did I give birth to such a shameless daughter? Lu Yuanfan was so weak that he couldn't even vent his anger. Lu Mingxian kowtowed and said, Father, it was really my first time with Prince Chen. First time? Lu Yuanfan was so angry that he didn't know what to say. Where is Li Yu? Li Yu. That time with Li Yu walked on the dry road, Lu Mingxian said with a coaxing face. As soon as she said this, everyone present didn't know what to say. Prince Chen, there is still my virgin blood on the bed. You can find someone to verify it. Lu Mingxian threw caution to the wind. Chenny Chen had already been schemed against, and now this woman was saying such shameless words. The veins on Chenny Chen's forehead were about to explode. Lu Juning looked absent-minded and out of sorts. Lu Yuanfan rubbed his forehead desperately. Ning Shu didn't expect Lu Mingxian to cause such a big scene as soon as she came out. She was completely going for broke. Anyway, it was already like this, so she had to make Lu Juning suffer and sleep with Lu Juning's man. She might even get rid of the current situation and marry into the prince's mansion. Concubine Yun probably used her connections in the mansion to scheme against Chenny Chen. Fortunately, concubine Lu didn't take over the backyard. Otherwise, concubine Lu would be roasted on the fire. So don't underestimate women. Many men fell into the hands of women. When there was no love in a woman's heart, it was the most terrifying thing for a woman. She didn't compromise and only wanted to achieve her goal. It seemed that Lu Mingxian was putting all her eggs in one basket. This matter was very difficult to deal with. It was very likely that Lu Mingxian would be dealt with and this matter would fade away. It would depend on whether Lu Yuanfan was willing to uphold justice for Lu Mingxian and let Chenny Chen take responsibility. Chapter 1322. The four sisters of the Lu family vividly illustrated what it meant to be weak. The eldest, Lu Mingxian, had caused such a ruckus in the Buddhist temple. Lu Yuanfan had been ridiculed by his colleagues, who looked at him strangely. The Lu family was also banned from entering the imperial temple, Tiantai Temple. It was too embarrassing. The second eldest, Lu Juning, wanted to completely destroy the Lu family. The third eldest, Ning Shu, had stolen his booklet and burned down the house. Lu Yuanfan was worried sick about the booklet. He was afraid that if it fell into the hands of others, the Lu family would be finished. He couldn't eat or sleep well. The fourth eldest, Lu Yujing, had married in her sister's place at the age of 10. 10 years old. Any one of these things could make the Lu family's reputation go down the drain. Now that he had just released his eldest, this kind of thing had happened. Lu Yuanfan was so angry that his blood vessels were about to burst. The atmosphere in the hall was heavy and oppressive. Ning Shu shrank to the side to reduce his presence. Seeing Lu Yuanfan trembling all over, he was afraid that he would suddenly have a stroke. Ning Shu thought that Lu Yuanfan had released Lu Mingxian to use her to fight against Lu Juning. Who would have thought that Lu Mingxian would do such a thing? Not only did she do it with Li Yu, but she also did it with Chen Yichen, his brother-in-law. Lu Mingxian knelt on the ground, looking aggrieved. "Dad, you must uphold justice for your daughter." Lu Yuanfan was speechless. Lu Yuanfan couldn't say a word for a long time. He stared blankly at his daughter kneeling on the ground. Was this his daughter? Chen Yichen's face was very ugly. He had been paying attention to Lu Juning. Lu Juning looked absent-minded, and she avoided Chen Yichen's eyes. Sure enough, there were no good men. What made Lu Juning feel most embarrassed was that she had given her first time to Chen Yichen. If she didn't marry Chen Yichen, could she marry someone else? She would rather be alone for the rest of her life. Why couldn't she escape this fate? In her previous life, Lu Mingxian had stolen a man from her, and in this life, her man had been tainted by Lu Mingxian. Lu Juning was full of hatred. Was she really unable to break free from fate? Chen Yichen didn't know how to explain. He had been set up. Chen Yichen didn't expect that he would fall into the trap of these harem women. Chen Yichen said to Lu Yuanfan, "I will only marry the second young lady." Lu Yuanfan rubbed his forehead. His head was about to explode. "Your Highness, you can't do this to me. You took my virginity. If you don't take responsibility, do you want me to kill myself?" Lu Mingxian cried. "Your Highness, I will kill myself in front of the palace gates. Even if you are a member of the imperial family, I will use my death to prove my innocence," Lu Mingxian said with a firm expression. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu really had to hand it to Lu Mingxian. She had no way out, and she had no scruples. Her killing power was so strong. Lu Juning's face was ugly, and Chen Yichen's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. "If you want to marry her, then marry her," Lu Juning said coldly. Lu Juning lifted her chin slightly, looking very proud. "I don't want a man who has been used by Lu Mingxian." Chen Yichen's face twisted. "Can't you see what's going on? I can't tolerate betrayal, so our marriage is annulled," Lu Juning said coldly. Lu Yuanfan interrupted, "There's no need to annul it. Since the second son doesn't want to marry, then marry the eldest son." Lu Juning was speechless. Lu Juning looked at her father in disbelief. This scumbag of a father. In his heart, only Lu Mingxian was his daughter. No matter what Lu Mingxian did, he could forgive her. "Thank you, father. Thank you." Lu Mingxian quickly kowtowed. "I won't marry Lu Mingxian. I want to marry Lu Juning." Chen Yichen's face was livid. Lu Mingxian cried delicately and plaintively said, "Your Highness, you said you would marry me. You said you would marry me on the bed in the side room." Lu Yuanfan couldn't help but close his eyes and wipe his face when he saw how shameless his daughter was. "I will never marry you in this life. If you want to marry someone, then marry Lu Mingxian. I would rather not marry in this life than share a husband with others," Lu Juning said firmly. Chen Yichen was very anxious and immediately said, "But I have to be responsible for you. We have already done it as husband and wife. I will only marry you in this life." Everyone. When Lu Yuanfan heard this, he felt dizzy. He staggered and fell into a chair. You. Lu Yuanfan pointed a trembling finger at Lu Juning and Chen Yichen. "What nonsense are you talking about? When did I do it as husband and wife with you?" Lu Juning couldn't help but shout, "Chen Yichen, don't force me to hate you. Lu Juning didn't expect Chen Yichen to say this in public. Her heart suddenly ached. This man was like other men. He never cared about what she thought. Chen Yichen said this because he wanted to marry Lu Juning. Lu Mingxian, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly burst out laughing. She said with some mockery, I thought that second sister was as pure as ice and as pure as jade. How could you do such a thing? You and I are good sisters. How about we share a husband? Lu Mingxian deliberately provoked Lu Juning. Lu Juning's face was cold. I'm not as shameless as you. You had sex with Li Yu, and now you're with Chen Yichen. Aren't you just afraid that you won't be able to get married? Yes, I want to get married. Second sister, don't you want to get married? It's the pot calling the kettle black. There's no difference. Don't pretend to be pure. Prince Chen and I only did it once, but Prince Chen has been in the Lu mansion for so long. Who knows if you didn't do it every night? Lu Juning was so angry that her whole body trembled and her face turned red. Don't talk nonsense. Chen Yichen, who was sandwiched between the two women, had an indescribable expression. Ning Shu was confused. She couldn't keep up with the rhythm and looked at Lu Yuanfan. Lu Yuanfan kept wiping his face. Enough, enough, stop arguing. Lu Yuanfan smashed the teacup on the ground. With a bang, the room suddenly quieted down. Lu Yuanfan asked Chen Yichen, Prince Chen, what do you think? Both of his daughters had been taken advantage of by Chen Yichen. His daughters must have had a deep hatred in their previous lives, so that he could meet these shameless daughters in this life. Lu Yuanfan felt so helpless and directly gave the choice to Chen Yichen. If it really doesn't work, then marry both of them. A Huang and vying are also a good story, Lu Yuanfan said. He wanted to get rid of these unlucky daughters now. They had lost their virginity before marriage, and as a result, their married daughters couldn't consummate their marriage. The reason was that they were too young. Chen Yichen kept looking at Lu Juning and ignored Lu Mingxian, who was kneeling on the ground. Do you really not want to marry me? Chen Yichen asked Lu Juning. Lu Juning turned her back and said coldly, No, I won't marry you even if I have to be alone for the rest of my life. Chapter 1323. I can't tolerate sand in my eyes. I wish you happiness, Lu Juning said resolutely, as if there was no room for negotiation. Chen Yichen closed his eyes and said to Lu Yuanfan, I am willing to marry Miss Lu. Thank you, Your Highness. Lu Mingxian immediately thanked him with a brilliant expression. Lu Yuanfan was a little worried and asked, Are you sure you want Lu Mingxian? Don't change your mind when the time comes. Lu Yuanfan was really scared of these daughters. Chen Yichen was silent and looked at Lu Juning. Lu Juning still had her back to him. Chen Yichen nodded in a fit of pique. I am willing to marry Miss Lu. Lu Mingxian smiled. Thank you, Your Highness. Lu Juning's body trembled. Then, she turned and left. Chen Yichen wanted to stop Lu Juning, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Lu Yuanfan said to the kneeling Lu Mingxian, From today onwards, you are no longer Lu Mingxian. You are Lu Yueyun. Ah. Ning Shu immediately pointed at himself. Dad, then who am I? You are the fourth, Lu Yujing. Lu Yuanfan waved his hand and said. Ning Shu was speechless. Damn, the names of the four girls of the Lu family are really, the second son was the first wife's daughter, and the first wife's name couldn't be changed all the time. Moreover, the great general's residence recognized his own granddaughter. Thus, he switched the names of the three concubine daughters back and forth. Lu Yujing married the eldest, Lu Mingxian, and took away the eldest's name. Since the eldest was already married, Lu Mingxian could no longer be called Lu Mingxian, so she was called Lu Yueyun. After that, Ning Shu was also forced to change his identity. He became the fourth child, Lu Yujing, and became a few years younger. This was simply, Chen Yichen didn't care who was who. With a flick of his sleeves, he left Lu Mansion. As soon as Chen Yichen left, Lu Yuanfan could no longer control his emotions and slapped Lu Mingxian. "Look at what you've done." Lu Mingxian covered her face and lowered her head. "Father, I know I was wrong." "You know you're in the wrong, yet you refuse to repent. Last time, you told me that you know you're in the wrong. What are you doing now?" The veins on Lu Yuanfan's forehead were bulging. It looked like his blood vessels were about to burst. Lu Mingxian lowered her head and didn't say anything. Lu Yuanfan sighed deeply. "The sooner you marry, the better." Then he staggered away. Lu Mingxian covered her face and stood up with a smile on her face. Ning Shu said, "Congratulations, elder sister." Lu Mingxian put down her hand. Half of her face was swollen, but Lu Mingxian smiled. "But it seems that Prince Chen likes second sister," Ning Shu said. Lu Mingxian smiled slightly and said, "I don't care who he likes. As long as I'm the legal wife of Prince Chen and have a noble status, I don't care if Prince Chen likes me. Even if he likes someone else, I'm still the legal wife of Prince Chen." This mentality was not bad. She had a noble status, ate and drank well, wore brocade clothes, had a group of servants, and the man even made the woman he liked his concubine. Moreover, the man didn't bother her. It was perfect. How beautiful everything looks without begging for a man's love. Ning Shu smiled and nodded. "Congratulations, big sister. But you still have to be careful. What happened last time?" "Last time, she could marry on behalf of Prince Chen." Lu Mingxian said lightly, "I'm not so stupid this time. I must become the legal wife of Prince Chen," Lu Mingxian said. "Congratulations again, big sister." Ning Shu bowed and turned to leave. The Lu family was just a small place, but what happened was really too much for the eyes to take in. Lu Yuanfan married Lu Mingxian to Chen Yichen mostly as a warning. She was just watching a show, and then she was forced to change her name and age. The names of the three daughters of concubines were changed in a triangular shape. The eldest daughter became the third daughter became the fourth daughter, and the fourth daughter became the eldest daughter. It really made people speechless. Miss, Second Miss and His Highness Prince Chen are also husband and wife. What should Second Miss do if she doesn't marry His Highness Prince Chen? Yuan Xiang asked in confusion. Second sister is a proud person. It's normal that she can't figure it out now, Ning Shu said lightly. Yuan Xiang pursed her lips and said, "Miss, you're only 10 years old now." "That's good. You've become younger," Ning Shu said with some sadness. "But when you become an adult, you'll be an old girl," Yuan Xiang said anxiously. "I'm 10 years old now. Who knows that I'll be an old girl after I become an adult?" Ning Shu said indifferently. Yuan Xiang nodded. "It seems so. Go to second sister's yard and ask for some information." Ning Shu took out some broken silver and said to Yuan Xiang, "Be careful." Yuan Xiang nodded and took the purse. Ning Shu picked up the embroidery and continued to embroider. This time she embroidered lotus flowers, which were vivid and lifelike. She could carry axes, hold thin needles, and was a woman who was good at literature and martial arts. Ha ha ha, when Yuan Xiang came back, Ning Shu shook her head and said, "There's no news at all. Nothing happened. It's so peaceful." Ning Shu was a little surprised. "Don't worry about it. Lu Juning could be so calm." Although she usually looked as if she had a knot in her heart, Chen Yichen was really a deeply affectionate and loyal man. If he really gave up, Lu Juning would definitely be heartbroken. In any case, in front of Chen Yichen, she was capricious. She always felt that Chen Yichen should protect her wholeheartedly. Otherwise, how could he eliminate the entanglement and uneasiness in her heart? Otherwise, how could he walk into her heart? Now, she was still stubbornly holding on because she felt that Chen Yichen wouldn't really abandon her. She was waiting for Chen Yichen to admit his mistake, and then she wouldn't listen to him. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered to care about these people's love and hate. Lu Yuanfan was probably traumatized by the last marriage, so he even ordered people to guard Ning Shu's yard. Lu Mingxuan's yard was surrounded by 3 layers of guards, for fear of the same thing as last time. The Lu family's reputation was already so bad that nothing could happen to it. Lu Yuanfan felt that he was really living with his face in his trousers. Lu Yuanfan set a date. It was quite rushed, so he went to ask Chen Yichen for his opinion. Chen Yichen had no opinion and didn't care at all. Then Lu Yuanfan asked the house to hang red lanterns. The closer it was to the wedding, the weirder the atmosphere in the Lu family's mansion became. Lu Mingxuan's yard was guarded and no one was allowed to enter. Lu Yuanfan asked Lu Juning again if she wanted to marry him. Lu Juning's expression immediately changed. She said coldly, "Father, can you not insult me? You want me to share a husband with Lu Mingxian? I can't do that." In her previous life, Lu Mingxian had stolen her husband, and in this life, she had to share a husband with Lu Mingxian. Was there anything more ironic than this? How am I insulting you? Don't you already have intimate relations with Prince Chen? Chapter 1324. Lu Yuanfan didn't know what to do. They had sex, but they didn't want to get married. What do you want to do if you don't get married? Just tell me what you want to do. Don't tell me that Prince Chen, like you, your sister and Li Yu, is walking on the dry road. Lu Yuanfan said without thinking. It was quite embarrassing for a father to say such things to his daughter. Lu Juning's face was livid. I won't get married. Father, you don't know what I'm thinking at all. How can I know what you're thinking if you don't tell me? What's done is done. What else do you want? Are you willing to get married or not? Lu Yuanfan directly gave the final ultimatum. I won't get married. Father, you have never treated me as your daughter. You only have Lu Mingxian in your heart. Only Lu Mingxian. I don't know what mother wants in this life. Lu Juning turned and left. Lu Yuanfan was so angry that he was about to have a cerebral hemorrhage. But this time, Lu Juning really wronged Lu Yuanfan. Lu Yuanfan didn't have Lu Mingxian in his heart. The person he loved most was himself and power. On the day of the wedding, Lu Mingxian was helped out in her wedding dress. Lu Yuanfan was so worried that he asked the wedding nanny to lift Lu Mingxuan's veil to take a look. Seeing that it was his eldest daughter, Lu Mingxian, he breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Since you're married, you should be sensible. I will send some people to follow you until you enter Prince Chen's mansion." "Thank you, father." Lu Mingxian thanked him. Lu Mingxian was helped into the sedan chair. Chen Yichen sat on the horse with a hopeless expression, looking around for Lu Juning. But Lu Juning didn't show up at all, which made Chen Yichen's expression even more gloomy. He had been dawdling and looking back from time to time, but Lu Juning still didn't show up. Chen Yichen originally wanted to provoke Lu Juning. As long as she appeared now and asked him not to marry someone else, he would do anything. But Lu Juning didn't show up. Lu Yuanfan knew what Chen Yichen was waiting for, so he just said, "Your Highness, it's almost the auspicious time." Chen Yichen's face trembled. In the end, he turned the horse around and left. The wedding procession slowly walked away, blowing and beating the drums. Ning Shu couldn't help but shake his head. He turned around and saw Lu Juning standing there motionlessly. "Second sister," Ning Shu called out. Lu Juning turned around and left, but her back view was very lonely. If there was an opportunity, he had to seize it. Since he had decided to be alone for the rest of his life, he should not hesitate. If he missed the opportunity, he would look like he had been betrayed and had nothing to live for. She didn't know what would happen to Lu Juning and Chen Yichen in the end. Would they still be together? Chen Yichen was already married, and there was also Lu Mingxian in the middle. Lu Mingxian was still the official wife. With Lu Juning's temperament, could she really tolerate her being a concubine and her elder sister being the main wife? Back then, Lu Juning had asked Lu Yujing to marry in Lu Mingxuan's place. Now, Lu Mingxian had stolen her man and married in her place. Samsara was a circle. Ning Shu indicated that she and Lu Juning were the only ones left in the manor. Now, she and Lu Juning were up against each other again. Lu Juning's lonely back view was really heartbreaking. "Father, have you found what you lost?" Ning Shu asked Lu Yuanfan. Lu Yuanfan's face immediately darkened. It was such a joyous day, yet he had to talk about this kind of thing. He really didn't have good eyesight. Lu Yuanfan directly said, "I found it." Ning Shu nodded. "It's good that you found it." As if. "Go back to your own courtyard. There are many outsiders here. Stay in the courtyard." Lu Yuanfan was afraid that his daughter would lose her virginity before marriage again. He really couldn't bear it. Ning Shu bowed and returned to her courtyard. The front courtyard was bustling with noise and excitement. Ning Shu took out the embroidery and continued to embroider. After embroidering for a long time, she felt that it was quite interesting. Moreover, she was completely focused while embroidering. It was like meditation, and her thoughts were clear. Yuan Xiang poured tea for Ning Shu and watched Ning Shu embroider. "Miss, with your skill in needlework, the dowry you embroidered will definitely be beautiful," Yuan Xiang said with a smile. Ning Shu nodded. "Isn't it? These are all works of art." Lu Mingxian returned home 3 days after the wedding and became Princess Chen. Lu Mingxian looked very dignified. She was dressed in brocade and had several maids around her. There was joy on her face. It seemed that she was very comfortable with the identity of Princess Chen. When Lu Mingxian saw Ning Shu, she gave Ning Shu a big red packet. It was a pair of earrings, the kind with exquisite workmanship. Ning Shu accepted it. Unlike the jubilant Lu Mingxian, Chen Yichen's face was gloomy, and he didn't look like he was married at all. How could he be happy if he didn't marry the woman he liked? Lu Juning slowly came over. When Chen Yichen saw Lu Juning, his eyes lit up, but Lu Juning ignored him. Lu Mingxian didn't have any expression on her face and talked to Ning Shu. Ning Shu felt that Lu Mingxian didn't have any feelings for Chen Yichen. At most, she just wanted to secure the position of Princess Chen. Chen Yichen and Lu Mingxian returned home, so they naturally had to stay for lunch. Chen Yichen kept glancing at Lu Juning, but Lu Juning didn't look at him and looked indifferent. Chen Yichen's face darkened. To be honest, Ning Shu didn't have the appetite to eat when he saw the two of them in such a dilemma. They were so worried that it really affected his appetite. Why couldn't they just talk about it? All misunderstandings started with, "I thought. I thought you knew what I was thinking." Lu Yuanfan sat at the head of the table and looked at the two of them with a frown. Chen Yichen was willing to stay at his mother's home for one night. Again and again, she tried to find an opportunity to talk to Lu Juning, but Lu Juning always used a cold face to refute her. Chen Yichen finally found a chance to be alone with Lu Juning and wanted to muster up the courage to talk. Lu Juning said directly, "We are done. You married the person I hate the most. Do you still want to have something to do with me?" Lu Juning suppressed her emotions and said. Chen Yichen didn't know what to say. "Husband." Lu Mingxian came over and took Chen Yichen's arm. She said, "Husband, I've been looking for you everywhere." "What are you talking about with second sister?" Lu Juning looked at the two of them leaning against each other and secretly cursed them in her heart. "Nothing," Chen Yichen replied indifferently. Lu Mingxian smiled even more brightly. "In fact, I don't care about anything. It's normal for men to have multiple wives. If second sister really likes you, I can make the decision to let you enter Prince Chen's mansion." No, I, Lu Juning, am not so lowly as to be someone's concubine. I am the legitimate daughter of the Lu family and the granddaughter of the general's mansion. How can I be a concubine? The more Lu Juning said, the angrier she became. Even if you give me your princess consort, I won't enter Prince Chen's mansion. Lu Mingxian laughed. Second sister, this is what you said. If you don't keep your promise, you will be struck by lightning and not even your bones will be left. Chapter 1325. Lu Mingxuan's voice sounded faintly, as if the heavens had struck with 5 bolts of lightning. Lu Juning's expression changed. She flicked her sleeves and turned to leave. Chen Chen looked at Lu Juning's back sadly and shook off Lu Mingxuan's hand on his arm. Don't touch me. Lu Mingxian was still smiling. Ning Shu watched from the side and felt that Lu Juning and Lu Mingxuan's positions had been switched. Now Lu Juning was very impatient, while Lu Mingxian felt like she was sitting on a high platform. Now Lu Mingxuan's marriage had been settled. If nothing happened to Chen Chen, Lu Mingxian would naturally have a life of glory and wealth. However, Lu Juning and Chen Chen had already slept together. Because Lu Juning couldn't get over the hurdle in her heart, she couldn't advance or retreat now. If she married Chen Chen already had a wife, and it was Lu Mingxian, whom she hated so much. If she didn't marry him, she would lose her innocence. She was in a dilemma. In the evening, Chen Chen wanted to rest in Lu's mansion for the night. Lu Juning couldn't help but go to Lu Mingxuan's courtyard. Seeing the lights inside and then the lights go out, Lu Juning gritted her teeth tightly. Why was her life still so fragmented after her rebirth? Why was Lu Mingxian still haunting her? Why did Lu Mingxian want to steal everything that belonged to her? Lu Juning returned to her room with a gloomy look. The next day, Lu Mingxian and Chen Chen were going back to Prince Chen's mansion. Chen Chen had been dawdling, wanting to see Lu Juning again. Lu Mingxian said directly, I know you like my second sister, but your relationship now is different. If you really like her, I won't object to you marrying her. Originally, your position as Princess Chen was hers, Chen Chen said. Lu Mingxian touched her temples and said carelessly, I know, but my sister missed such an opportunity. There are some things that can't go back. Lu Mingxian knew this feeling too well. When Lu Yujing married Chen Chen, she wanted to destroy the world. She wouldn't let go of any opportunity, and this man was Lu Juning's man. She was Prince Chen's Princess Chen, the high and mighty Princess Chen. On the other hand, Lu Juning was just an unmarried woman who had lost her chastity. Lu Mingxian stared at Lu Juning with wide eyes. Revenge for her brother, revenge for the pain she and her mother had to endure. Chen Chen turned around and walked away, looking very despondent. Lu Mingxian walked beside him. Lu Mingxuan's back was bright and beautiful. Ning Shu looked at Lu Mingxian. Strictly speaking, Lu Mingxian was better at seizing opportunities than Lu Juning. Lu Juning's strength lay in the fact that she had been reborn and had foresight. Lu Mingxian, on the other hand, had managed to crawl up in that condition. Ning Shu let out a long sigh. The women in the backyard were not simple. The men trapped the women in the backyard and let the women deal with the other women. If these methods were used on a man, it would be beautiful. Lu Yuanfan wanted to marry Lu Juning off, so he said directly, the son of the Supreme Court's assistant minister is not bad. He is 2 years older than you, so you can meet him. Lu Juning's face immediately darkened. I said that I will not marry. Even if I want to marry, it is my own decision. Lu Yuanfan sneered. You are just a withered flower. What else do you want? Withered flower? Father, are you my father or not? Lu Juning's face turned ugly when she heard the words, withered flower. Lu Yuanfan said, then what do you want? I've said it before. My marriage is not something you can interfere with. My marriage is decided by my maternal family. I am your father. Father, haha. Lu Juning sneered. She went back to her room to pack her things and went to the general's residence. Lu Yuanfan was so angry that his chest heaved. He pointed at Lu Juning and Ning Shu and asked, "What does she mean?" Ning Shu quickly shook her head. "I don't know. She was the only daughter left in the Lu family." Lu Yuanfan glanced at Ning Shu. "What kind of family do you want to marry?" "Father, I am only 10 years old. It's still early." Ning Shu said. Lu Yuanfan sighed. He flicked his sleeves and went into the study with his hands behind his back. Ning Shu caught up with Lu Yuanfan and asked, "Father, what did you lose?" "Second sister is still looking for it for you. Actually, she is a good person. You don't have to be so fierce to her." "What?" Lu Yuanfan stopped. "Did your second sister find what she was looking for?" Ning Shu shook her head. "I only know that she is looking for something. I don't know if she found it or not." "Father, don't worry. She will find it sooner or later." Lu Yuanfan's expression changed. He pushed Ning Shu aside and rushed away. Ning Shu shouted, "Father, I am not finished." "Where are you going?" Ning Shu caught up with Lu Yuanfan. Seeing that Lu Yuanfan was about to go out, she quickly asked, "Father, where are you going?" "To the general's residence." Lu Yuanfan got on the sedan. Ning Shu immediately asked, "Father, are you going to bring second sister back?" "Go back and stay in the courtyard. Don't come out if you have nothing to do. You are not observant." Lu Yuanfan said impatiently. Ning Shu returned to his courtyard. Lu Yuanfan probably went to ask Lu Juning for something. Lu Yuanfan thought that Lu Juning was going to bring the booklet to the general's residence. Ning Shu took out the booklet and wrote down some prescriptions. He didn't know how to complete this task. He felt that as long as Lu Juning was there would be no way to complete this task. It was too tiring. Moreover, living in such a small place was very depressing. Every day, he would wander around the Lu residence. He would wander around the same place many times. Lu Juning didn't have the booklet on her. Lu Yuanfan wouldn't be able to get anything. He would definitely go back empty-handed. When Lu Yuanfan came back, his expression was very ugly. He probably suffered at the general's residence. The general's residence was very protective. Everyone thought that Lu Yuanfan was a scumbag. It would be strange if they treated him well. He also didn't manage to bring Lu Juning back. Ning Shu went in front of Lu Yuanfan and asked, "Father, you didn't bring second sister back." Lu Yuanfan's heart was filled with anger. Moreover, Lu Yuanfan found that this daughter of his really made people speechless. She specifically picked topics that people didn't want to talk about. She was very, very unobservant. "No, I will treat it as if I don't have this daughter." Even if Lu Yuanfan was blind, he could see that this daughter had a lot of resentment towards him. Not only was there resentment, there was also a strong hatred. Just because her mother died early, she felt that he killed her mother. He must have eaten too much, that's why he killed his wife and left no one to manage the backyard. Lu Yuanfan took a deep breath and made a decision in his heart. He was going to marry again. The Lu family didn't have a male heir. He had to find a wife and have a son. It would be best to find a family with power and influence. Recently, the Lu family's decline was obvious. It felt like the sun was setting in the west. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.